How a wildly successful game destroyed itself in 10 days. Love and Deepspace's unforgivable sin. A lot of y'all are already aware of the Valco situation. I wanted to wait for all the information to come out before I covered it fully, and I knew that the person that would do that is Muujin. Just a quick disclaimer here. I know Muujin's had a couple of takes that haven't been the best, of course. I've spoken to Muujin directly about this. I've voiced my opinions to him because I actually agreed with that. I think it's kind of different when it's like a video on a person versus a video on a company. I think Muujin's videos on companies are usually incredibly accurate. If there is anything to debunk in this one, please do let me know, of course, but I'm hoping this is going to be a very comprehensive deep dive into this whole situation. It's an hour and 22-minute masterpiece from Muujin. Let's take a look at this, shall we?
If I had $1 for every time a Chinese gacha game player showed up to the development studio of their favorite game while holding a knife with the intention of assassinating staff there, then I'd be at least $2 richer. And what's crazy here...
Wait, 2?
Is that this second $1 would be given to me as recently as June 2026, when that exact thing happened. But as a bonus, it also came bundled with a...
So this was the first instance was the Bunny Girl incident, right? Which is absolutely insane, by the way. I'm pretty sure that was the Bunny Girl incident for Honkai Impact 3rd.
Package of literal cow shit, vandalism, and a large police response.
Jesus.
Love in Deepspace is the most successful female targeting gacha game of all time. Easily able to earn tens of millions of dollars on any given month of the year. They were, without exaggeration, on top of the world with no competition whatsoever until one day they'd decide to shoot themselves in the foot with a fully loaded shotgun.
So this is by Infold, the company, right? And probably other developers and publishers as well. But their kind of practices about video games have been called out for a while now, especially with their other game, Infinity Nikki. But this game, Love and Deepspace, has been out for way longer and it's been through way more. And again, people's biggest issues is Infold really do have no competition, bro. Like the otome genre is so shallow at this point because it's basically just this game. And then the dress-up gacha as well, Infinity Nikki, is basically a standalone as well. There's not really an option for people to jump to if they do something bad. It's either just stop playing or keep playing, right? It's basically just two options, or just go play something that's arguably a lot worse. So for this to happen, it does suck for the players. I think the players are definitely the biggest victims here, but I need to learn more about the entire situation, so...
1 week after announcing the biggest update the game has had in a very...
That guy is huge! Oh my god!
Week after announcing the biggest update the game has had in a very long time, they do something unprecedented. Going back on their word and canceling the entire update.
Jeez.
The immeasurable disappointment their community felt would spark one of the biggest and most impressive global efforts in gacha game history.
Yeah, the fans really came together
all across the globe to buy up entire city billboards, donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to charity, and even convincing Queso, of all people, to spread awareness about this injustice.
I saw this.
And bear in mind, this is all truly nothing more than the tip of this iceberg.
See, I've seen the tip. Muujin's gonna show the rest of the shaft of the iceberg, you know? That's what we love Muujin for.
As it's easily one of the most complex topics I have ever covered on this channel.
I'm not surprised.
But it's not like I had a choice, seeing that my own community had left over 14,000 messages about this topic in my Discord server, and even went as far as compiling an amazing Google Doc about it. And so, why did this money printing machine decide to destroy itself? And how did this become a worldwide phenomenon? Well, without further ado, let's do this.
Okay,
all right,
let's go.
Most people
I'm ready.
Agree that the first gacha game came out in 2010 and was developed by Konami.
Yeah, Konami. I forgot about this. This was literally the first ever gacha.
It's called Dragon Collection. The best way to describe it was kind of like a knockoff Pokemon, where you went from dungeon to dungeon and collected as many monsters as possible. And in between certain levels, you'd receive a luck-based treasure chest that has the ability of giving you some really rare items that can boost your stats like crazy.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to open more of these treasure chests now without having to go through other levels, then you could pay money to buy them. This simple mechanic that wasn't really popular at the time would change Konami forever. By 2012, their console game sales were slipping. But their social
Okay.
games on social platforms like Greed, meant to be played on mobile like Dragon Collection, were defying every single expectation. By 2012, Konami's net income was up 80% thanks to this game and
Dude,
other games on
this game is the reason big gacha games exist. It's one of the big reasons. My God, it was the proof of concept that everybody needed. That's so crazy.
social platforms. And this made other
Also, probably why loot boxes exist in all of, like, a vast majority of your favorite games and even battle passes and stuff as well, bro. This was like the beginning of it all. That's wild.
developers, of course, take notice. Why is Konami making so much money? How
Yep.
can we incorporate this into our games?
Yeah.
And so, gacha would start to take over Japan. But it would remain in Japan for a while because, well, the entire concept was from there. The word gacha comes from the word gachapon, which is essentially a vending machine that you can find in many different places in Japan.
Why does this say octopus only? What does that mean? I'm very... Why does that say $40? What the hell? This is not the same gachapon in Japan that I've seen, bro.
With each one having a different themed set of toys, figurines, keychains, etc. And after placing money in it, essentially buying a pull,
Yep.
you'll be receiving something randomly from that set. Now, of course, some items in that set will have
40 yen, you mean? Well, that's the dollar symbol. Yen is the different symbol, right?
a very low drop rate, making them rare and very sought after. And the whole point is to keep buying pulls until you get what you want. And that's kind of how gacha games work.
Okay.
As I said, gacha games would remain niche and would be mostly focused on Japan for
Oh,
the
God.
longest time. But this, of course, would all change in 2020 when Genshin Impact would come out and bring gacha into the mainstream. Now,
Yeah.
of course, it was helped quite a bit by releasing
COVID.
mid-pandemic as everyone was locked up in their homes. But one could argue that the reason why it succeeded so well was because it felt like a full-fledged game with gacha mechanics, rather than gacha mechanics with
Yeah.
a game built around it.
For the longest time, and I still pretty much agree with this. Well, okay, for the longest time, just to be incredibly fair here, I said Genshin Impact felt like a RPG with gacha elements. Nowadays, you know, now that I know what a gacha is and I've played other gacha games, no, it feels like a really good gacha game. Like it does. There's only a certain amount that you can actually play, right, until the gacha elements force you to stop, basically, because you either run out of resin or... Well, basically, you run out of resin. Like, it's just a really good gacha game. It doesn't... And at this point, it doesn't feel like an RPG with gacha elements. I think for new players, it will, because they have so much stuff to do that doesn't involve resin, right? It's going to take them months to catch up with the story, so it is going to feel like an RPG with gacha elements. Once you're caught up, bro, it doesn't.
Due to all these elements combined, it still holds the Guinness World Record for fastest mobile game to reach $1 billion in revenue, achieving this feat in 178 days. And
Yep.
just to really illustrate how crazy this was, the
Half a year, by the way. My God.
previous record holder for this Guinness World Record was Pokemon Go. And that's not all, because Genshin Impact also holds another Guinness World Record, the fastest mobile game to reach $5 billion, which was held by Clash of Clans. And while it did
Jesus.
rewrite certain expectations for gacha games, it didn't really rewrite the demographics that it was targeting. Gacha games have always been about targeting the single male with disposable income. One look at the characters that you can spend money on in some of the most popular gacha games in existence, and you understand very quickly that the targeted demographic...
I see why it's framed that way because this video is about love and deep space, but I mean, there's a lot of Guna women as well that love to see the women and the men, bro. Like, it's so funny because my YouTube audience is quite literally almost split 50-50 between male and female demographic. Genuinely. It is. I think it's, right now, it's probably sat at more of a 65-45, maybe a 70-30, but it's way higher than I would ever thought, to be
has
fair.
not changed. You don't even need to take my word for it. The CEO of Hoyoverse, the developer behind Genshin Impact, would, as far back as 2011, talk about this topic to investors.
Yep.
He'd say that the otaku have been suffering from huge psychological pressure and that they hope that they can play their games easily so that they can enjoy this feeling of being saved. He would then say that the games that they're making were specifically made for touchable devices because of a fairly innovative feature they came up with, which is the touch feature. Yep, it's fairly straightforward. This was for one of their first
Oh my
major games.
God, was this actually a reason why they started doing it on mobile? There's no way, right?
It's called Honkai Impact, and you could pretty much touch the very hot women that you can pull for, and they'll react to it, which will also increase your friendship level with them, just like real life. But if you've played gacha games, if you
No, that's not like real life. It's not just like real life. Oh my god. There's a couple of steps missed out, I think, but Jesus, I didn't realize that was actually a reason, dude. That's crazy.
come across this logic, then you must have taken a step back at some point and asked yourself, yeah, I get it. The established demographic is men, but what about women? Yes, there's a lot of men that are lonely out there that would want companionship from a hot waifu. But let's not pretend that women don't want the same thing. I mean, come on. Have you seen some of the books that some...
Sorry, I actually do have a really bad cough right now, by the way. It's like the tail end of the sickness, and it's all leaving from my chest area, dude.
women read? One could argue that in some cases, they're even freakier than men. So what are the gacha games that were catering to their needs? Because they also had disposable income, and it seemed like no one was tapping into that.
It was like Genshin was tapping into it slightly. Like I say, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of girls that love the Guna side of the female characters too, but Genshin wasn't really doing a hugely good job of it with the male characters, to be fair. I mean, there was like, you know, Zhongli Zhao at that point in the beginning, right? Kaya DeLuke, but they weren't really... It's not like they were Lisa in Genshin, right? Where she's like, oh, hey, cutie. Like, that ZZZ though, but this is way back when. This is before ZZZ. This is before HSR. This is before Love and Deepspace. That's the point, right? There wasn't anything that really existed.
At least, not successfully. You see, there's always been a type of game that's existed since the early 2000s called an otome game.
Yeah.
A story-based romance video game targeted towards women. Yes, these games would be monetized. They had varying degrees of success, but they were also extremely niche, never able to truly reach a mainstream audience. There would be multiple attempts by multiple developers to make a gacha game centered around the otome genre, but none would truly stand out.
You know, it's so funny as well because a lot of people probably, and again, this is an assumption on my part, but I reckon a lot of people would have assumed at that point it's just because there weren't as many female gacha gamers that wanted that kind of thing, right? Now that's just proven incorrect because it just turns out the games weren't capturing people that well. They weren't great games, let's just say, or they weren't doing the job that they were supposed to be doing for those games, because my goodness, bro, I think even I underestimated the amount of female gacha gamers that really love the hot males, bro. My goodness, it's a lot. And hey, all goddamn power to y'all, bro. I am a big voucher of let the gooners goon. Doesn't matter what for, bro. People always say, like, the female characters in Genshin are super exposed and stuff, and I'm like, expose the men too, you know? Hey, I said let Varka have the fucking Captain America skin from Marvel Rivals, bro. If y'all haven't seen that, by the way, I think they fixed it now, but my goodness, it's crazy.
For example, even Hoyoverse, before releasing Genshin Impact, would release a game called Tears of Themis.
And the gay men, bro, even the straight men, dead ass. A lot of straight men just love, like, fan service in general, bro.
Targeting the female demographic specifically while incorporating a gacha system around it. And
it's like the fan service is good. Sometimes you're just not the fan that's being serviced, right? And I'm down for all fan service, or like at least a vast majority of fan service.
Targeting the female demographic specifically while incorporating a gacha system around it. And guess what? It didn't really work out that well. It had released in China in July of 2020 and then globally on July 2021. And honestly, the revenue right now is so low that it can barely make a dent in their other titles. Like, it can't even make 10% of what Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail are making right now.
That's still crazy to me though, bro. Their revenue was 1.3 million, and that's like monumentally low. Christ. In a month, by the way. Like, that's low. That's crazy to me.
Like,
that's
can't
crazy.
Even make 10% of what Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail are making right now. And so the logic was, for many developers, that if even Hoyoverse can't make a successful otome game targeting the female demographic, then who can?
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's where the developer Paper Games came in. Now, here's the deal.
Okay, so it's Paper Games and not necessarily Infold then, is that correct? Because I was under the impression it was the other way around. My bad on that one. That's a big blunder on my part.
Games has been around for a while. Their first game came out in December 2012 in China. It was called Nikki Up to You, A Dressing Story, and from day one, they were targeting women. This was a dress-up game that was made for them.
Oh, it is
By
Infold?
2015,
Okay, never
they
mind
would
then.
release another game called Love Nikki, and for the first time would expand into Japan, the biggest gacha market.
Yep.
In 2017, they would start taking a step in other directions by releasing the game Mr. Love Queen's Choice, a fairly standard 2D otome game. Now, yes, it would be niche and would be fairly successful, but more importantly, it would teach them priceless lessons for their magnum opus, a game that would change everything for them and the industry. In 2020, Paper Games would release a teaser trailer for their upcoming game called Love and Deepspace. And for any fans of otome games, for any women out there that were hoping for a next generation experience, This caused a massive earthquake. This was the first 3D Otome game to ever exist, and at this level of insane quality. No one had done this before. No one was crazy enough to even come up with this idea. This shook the entire industry to its core, and many were very interested to see how it would end up performing once it would finally release.
It looks
Here's
cool,
the problem,
bro.
though. There was no release date whatsoever.
Ooh.
They just dropped this teaser, created a massive earthquake in the industry, and just left. They would literally disappear, and people wouldn't hear any updates from them for years.
Interesting.
That would be the reality until 2023, when something would finally come out from the studio, but it wasn't good news at all. News outlets would report that Paper Games was about to take on a loan of $70 million. And what was really interesting here is that the person giving them that loan was HYTE.
Whoa! What? I have never heard this side of the story. What the hell?
The creators of Genshin Impact. It turned out
No wonder Dwayne hangs out with the CEO at like conventions, bro. Wait, I never heard of this. This is insane.
that Paper Games had overextended itself and was developing too many titles at once and ran out of money. So they asked HYTE for a loan, and HYTE gave it. But the collateral was really interesting. If Paper Games had failed,
The collateral was Falco, bro. Can you imagine the next drip marketing character engaged in his fucking Falco?
to pay HYTE back their money by the agreed upon date, then HYTE would get 10% of Paper Games' share, effectively owning 10% of the entire company. At the time, people didn't really know what to think. This was
Dude, 10% for $70 million is insane. That values that company at $700 million. That company's worth way more. Oh my goodness.
a massive loan, and Paper Games was not making anywhere near close that money. What people
At least
didn't know,
now.
though, was that the plan was simple. Internally, they were hoping to repay this loan by releasing Love and Deepspace. They were banking everything on the success of that game, and it was about to come out on January 2024. However, even with so much riding on this game's success, no one, whether it be from the staff or the executive team or the CEO himself, could have ever predicted the ridiculous success that this game would find all across the globe.
Yeah.
This game's impact on the Otome game genre was like what Genshin Impact did for gacha games. In 2024, Paper Games made over $1 billion. And you bet your ass that they repaid HYTE every single dollar of that loan amount. It had done what so many others had attempted to do but failed, bringing this genre to the mainstream and incorporating gacha mechanics within it too. But why? What was the secret formula that no one else understood?
Yeah, this is what I'm confused about. What makes Love and Deepspace so much better than all of these other games? Genuinely, because everything I've learned about it doesn't make it seem as good. I mean, it's definitely more, it's got a way higher visual fidelity, and the characters are probably way more like ingrained and developed upon, let's just say, for example. But like the actual rate at which the story gets updated and stuff is the one thing where I'm like, I just don't understand it, but maybe that's what he's going to go into, so let's see.
Well, for many men, the attraction to gacha games was about having a power fantasy, collecting sexy and strong characters that will progress through a story that centers around them. Thing is though, women don't really want that. Love and Deepspace offered them something different.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't want that necessarily. I just want a cool story, I guess. But that goes for any game. If there's any game like an MMO where DPS characters are like super stronger than other characters, you're going to play the super strong one. Or like most people are, right?
A game centered around being individually known and cared for. It played more like a 3D dating simulator that caters to your needs.
Okay.
Like a genuine routine that becomes a part of your day rather than just a traditional gacha game. And here's how it would do that. The game would initially release with 3 different love interests: Zane, Raphael, and Xavier.
Oh, there was only 3 to begin with. Wow. Okay, so there was only ever 3 to begin with, and they have released further.
And Silas would release right after. With
So 2 were released after. Oh my goodness, bro. So there have been 2 editions, and Valko would have been the 3rd edition. Silas is like the most badass looking guy in my opinion, bro.
Caleb joining the rest of the cast in 2025. There would be a million different ways of being able to interact with them in-game, making them truly feel like, well, they're real. While you're in-game, they would call you through a video call, you'd be able to text them, and sometimes, I mean, this is a Silas thing, but he would call you his kitten. When it would be your birthday, they would all individually take the time to celebrate it and would sing you happy birthday or do some other things for you. And of course, you could go on dates with them, spending quality time while able to do a variety of different activities together.
Yeah.
But I feel like what would really take it to the next level was how developers would keep adding features that made this game a part of your daily routine.
I do remember this, actually, or at least one big thing about this, and it was the period tracker. I'm hoping it goes into it here because I still don't know the full situation. I remember a lot of people saying it was creepy and weird that they added a period tracker, especially because it needed your data and stuff. But then I also heard people say it was the best period tracker that they've ever used. Like, even the apps and stuff that are dedicated period trackers were nowhere near as good as this, which is crazy, dude. That's wild.
Other gachas asked you to log in every day to get rewards, but here, you are being asked to log in to make your life easier. Like, for example, look at this feature called Remind Me, where you'd get a notification on your phone from your favorite love interest reminding you of something important to you, like, I don't know, someone's birthday, or the fact that you have an important meeting coming up.
That's cool.
And there'd be this other feature that would come out as well that you might have heard of called the period tracker. Now look, there are a lot of period tracker apps out there for women to keep track of their periods. But Love and Deepspace was like, you know what, dude? This game is a part of your daily routine, so might as well have that feature too. So when you would get close to your period or your first day of your period would arrive, you'd have your favorite love interest point that out and vow to take care of you while giving you extra attention while you deal with cramps from the seventh circle of hell. Now, interestingly enough, this whole period tracker thing was some sort of a Twitter controversy when it came out back in early 2025. Some people would call Love and Deepspace a gooner game for having a period tracker. But
bro, that part always made me laugh, dude. Oh my god, this game has a period tracker? It's such a gooner game. Brother, no, everything else about the game is a gooner game. We don't need to scapegoat a period tracker. Make the period tracker a scapegoat to say that this is the reason this game's a gooner game, dude. No, the entire game is a gooner game.
That's just Twitter being Twitter. Because if you're going to call this a gooner game, might as well talk about the scenes where you're being figuratively railed. That's right. Let's talk about monetization.
And it's great, by the way. I think it's great. I think it's fine to goon, guys. I think it's great.
How was this a gacha game? Well, you weren't pulling for the characters. You'd be pulling for something called memories. You'd meet the characters through the main story. So in other words, they'd be available to you for free. But memories are these special 3D cutscenes where you interact with these different love interests and, well, end up doing a lot of raunchy things. Yes, these can get really spicy. And it really caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting this level of raunchiness when I streamed this game for the shits and giggles back in 2024 with the streamer Box2.
Wait, am I giving him a lap dance? What's going
with
on?
Box?
Oh my god! Dude, what is this? We
He's
just get a
sweating!
free
Bro, goddamn!
We're literally fucking...
What's happening?
Is that my tits?
Hey, yo, is that your leg? Yo, that's your leg. That's your leg. Hey, man.
Okay, okay.
Holy mother was sweating and hey, hey, hey!
Oh, no, he's bending me over!
He opened your legs, bro!
Yeah.
There's many a way to enjoy Love and Deepspace, but with the boys, sounds great. I'm not gonna lie. Christ. I did see some people say it as well, by the way. Obviously, the raunchy parts were kind of few and far between. It wasn't the entire game, which, of course, for sure. But I also think, maybe I use the term gooner a bit lightly, but I think everybody does nowadays, right? And it's like, I even think, like, if people can call, like, the Columbina feeding the traveler a lollipop or vice versa, whichever way around it was, and, like, you know, the subtle moan thing, the eating loud as gooner, then I think a lot of things can be considered gooner, right? I know a lot of people consider gooner just general relationship stuff in gacha games and stuff like that, but I guess I just very loosely use a lot of the terms that are very widely spread, because they basically hold, the words themselves basically hold no meaning nowadays, bro. You hate the word? I don't know. Me too. But I think a lot of the words that are just like widely used on the internet nowadays really don't hold much of a meaning anymore. They just get used everywhere, so they lose a lot of the meaning. I would differentiate between romance and gooner stuff though. And I think that's fine, but then how would you, like, where's the line, you know? Is this romance or is this gooner stuff? Because this is incredibly romantic. I would not do this with someone I was not romantic with. It's both, exactly, so how do you differentiate? I don't care, I'm loving this. I think it's great. Like I say, I actually don't think there's anything at all wrong with this stuff. The only thing I say is like, but this is a hot take that I've had for a while, bro. I am personally of the opinion that this game should be an 18+ game because of this kind of scene. But I'm also of the opinion that all gacha games should be 18+ because of the nature of gacha games. Yeah, lads is 18+ in China, but like 13+ in global. Yeah. Or maybe not all global, but in certain places or something. Yeah, I did see that it was a very low age rating. It's just crazy.
It was definitely unexpected on my end. So essentially, this is what people spend their money on, okay? Of course, seeing that this is a free-to-play game, you can earn this currency for free by playing, but many would choose to spend money because other than these raunchy cutscenes, you'd also be unlocking outfits for these love interests as well as gear.
Yeah, 16 plus in Germany, indeed. I think it's also going to depend on local laws and stuff for like ages, right? Just like with alcohol in games, a lot of places they'll have it 20. Does the US even have like a 21 plus system actually for games? Oh no, 18 plus because it is 18 to drink, but then other like sexual stuff is like 16 plus because that's the local law. 16 plus in Singapore, which honestly fair. Google's so afraid about 18 plus on games. Well, because it limits them. I think the difference between 16 plus and 18 plus for monetizing a game is probably very different to like 13 plus and 16 plus because you can't make your own money between 13 and 16. You can 16 and above.
That would make you more powerful for story combat.
Anyway, sorry, I got off topic then.
At the end of the day as well.
True.
All these elements combined would make this game one of the most successful gacha games of all time. Other developers in the industry would be so impressed that they would ask team members from Paper Games to conduct workshops or presentations talking about the logic and strategy behind making this behemoth. Like this presentation that was conducted back in March 2026 in the Game Developers Conference. It will be called Designing Crush-Worthy Characters in Love and Deep Space. This would be fascinating because in this presentation, the lead character designer would describe how the team designed characters that millions of players became emotionally attached to. This emotional attachment would be why this game would make so much money. The women playing this game would sometimes spend money when they already had a good enough amount of currency. And they had two main reasons to do so. Number one, they are absolutely in love with a love interest in the game and they want to spoil them. And number two, they want to support the developer. This is not a mentality that you see for many things. Many women genuinely wanted Paper Games to make more money so that they can continue updating the game because no one else had ever made a game like this.
Which I think is a very fair thing, to be honest. But at the same time, I think people look at gacha chart revenue and very much misunderstand how much it takes to actually develop these games. Unless I'm misunderstanding how much money it takes to develop these games, to be honest, and I could be. But it's like I see games making 30 million a month, bro, and I'm like, surely for the 6-week patch cycle, it does not cost anywhere near that amount. I mean, anywhere near. Like, these gacha games are raking it in. That's why they can afford to do all the crazy stuff that they do outside of the games, right? Make animes, they can afford to build nuclear bloody reactors and stuff. Is HSR worth playing? That's a question for a different time, brother man. A lot of people say yes, a lot of people say no. But I am very curious on how expensive it actually is to update these games, because it's going to be very different, just as a comparison here from Genshin Impact, for example, which is a massive 3D open world, to Love and Deepspace, which is not that, right? I'm not saying the development process is any easier because I'm not a developer, I don't know, but I would assume that it would be cheaper than something like Genshin Impact.
And before you knew it, this game was competing head-to-head.
But they make more, like the majority of the time.
Head with the giants of gacha such as Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. By mid-2024, it was making tens of millions of dollars per month.
Yep.
So as I said, it was no wonder that Paper Games made over $1 billion in 2024, while also becoming the #1 highest earning app on the Chinese App Store, which is a very big deal. But by the end of 2024, they would take it another step further, incorporating something that's not really present in mainstream gacha games like Love and Deepspace.
No.
VIP services. You would become a VIP if you spend a minimum of $690. And as soon as you reach Tier 2, which starts at $2,100, you would receive gift boxes sent to your address. They'd have special merch and other little goodies. And when you get to the VIP 2 tier, you start getting personalized gift boxes sent to your address, with more exclusive items signed by your love interest in-game once you reach higher tiers, with some being at a minimum of 5 fucking figures.
That seems predatory. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, gacha inherently is predatory, right? If we could just keep it a buck. I always kind of dislike this gacha is more predatory than my gacha thing because they're all just pretty predatory. But this specific thing, I was like, it's more parasocial, I'd say, than predatory. I mean, predatory still, yes, but parasocial. I think it gets people very interpersonal with the game itself. It's interesting because this is also a lot of money, bro. $14,000.
Look at how many people on the Love and Deepspace subreddit would post when they got VIP, like it's a celebration. And you know what's even crazier? These prices that I just showed you are exclusive to the Chinese server, taking into consideration their local purchasing power. But outside of the Chinese, Japanese, and South Korean servers, it has been reported, like in this thread right here, that the minimum for global players to become VIP is to spend around $6,000. Almost 10 times the Chinese minimum. That is a lot of money. By March 2025,
Wait, so what's the max then?
Love and Deepspace would start outgrossing Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves, Uma Musume, I mean just about any other gacha. The CEO of Paper Games was hailed as a genius, and he would become a billionaire. He'd be interviewed by so many different publications, and he'd say that the reason for his success was simple, specifying, it's not that women don't like to play games, but there are no good games for women to play. He'd also point out,
So this guy was very aware that they basically had the only good game for women to play. That's so sad, bro. Because it's like, it's a good thing, don't get me wrong. It's a good thing that the game exists, but they're very aware that there's no competition.
that when it came to Paper Games, 70% of their workforce is female. So he wasn't necessarily the genius here, it was the team behind this game. For one of the first times ever, you had a high-budget game for women, made by women, in the otome genre. And that's what so many other game companies were missing. That's why games like Tears of Themis just couldn't really hit the mark. And this is how Love and Deepspace became a worldwide phenomenon, with billboards even popping up in Times Square.
Yeah,
I mean, it would become such a phenomenon that you'd have media publications like Reuters making mini documentaries about how this game took over women's love lives. Listen to how they would describe it.
That sounds very wrong. It's the only game of that type. Women gamers play other shit. Yeah, that's obvious, bro. Yeah, I mean, the whole premise of that whole section was pre-contextualized with otome games in mind. Mujin wasn't putting it out there that women don't play other games. It was just in the gacha sphere for goonerism and stuff like that. That's what this whole section was set up as. You need the previous context of the rest of the 10 minutes for the video, but that's what he meant.
Chinese civil servant Zhou is in a 6-month relationship with her first boyfriend. He's a wavy-haired, handsome painter. He's also fictional.
He's
Yu
also
is one of 5 romantic interests to choose from in Love and Deepspace, the world's biggest mobile dating game with some 80 million users, according to research firm Sensor.
You know, I wonder if news presenters in the UK especially have been talking like fucking AI for years just so that they can get easily replaced on purpose later down the line, because my god, bro, there's no emotion behind that voice. It's crazy.
Yu is one of 5 romantic interests to choose from in Love and Deepspace, the world's biggest mobile dating game with some 80 million users, according to research firm Sensor Tower.
80 million users.
Insane.
That is an insane amount of users. But
I'm not saying I want that to happen, by the way. It's just crazy, because that has been a thing ever since I was a kid. So like for 20 plus years, dude, it's crazy.
yeah, this app did such a good job of incorporating itself into your daily routine that it kind of made it meaningless for many women to even see.
Yeah, that might be auto-translator, but I'm saying like in the UK, that's what news reporters have sounded like since I was a kid.
Job of incorporating itself into your daily routine that it kind of made it meaningless for many women to even seek out a boyfriend. It was that crazy.
Oh,
There'd also
really?
be a couple different documentaries by the publication South China Morning Post. In one of them, they talk about women that would specifically hire cosplayers to dress up as their love interest from Love and Deepspace and go out on dates with them. And in another, they would do the same thing as Reuters. Talk about how some women were replacing real-life men with, well, Love and Deepspace love interests.
See, this is where it gets kind of, like, I wouldn't say dangerous per se, because fuck it, do what you want to do, but it's a bit sad. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, this happens with men as well. I think it's just a bit more normalized, because it's happened for a long time. It is sad. If you're literally replacing real people in your life with fake people that are putting on a persona and you know, cosplaying as a video game character that you're parasocial with, no matter what gender you are or what game it's from, it's really sad.
Such massive success comes with its own fair share of critics. And by 2025, you'd have multiple media publications come up with a narrative that it's because of games like this, these otome games, that birth rates were declining. A lot of criticism would be.
I think there's a lot of reasons why birth rates were probably declining. I've heard of a lot of actual reasons, like proven reasons. This could definitely be a contributor for sure, but I don't think I doubt it's one of the biggest reasons.
Be directed towards the game and the women that were playing it. Some of these women would start blaming incel culture for this, while others would point out that it's just simply because it's popular. This new dynamic would lead to some nasty fights within the gacha community, like how
I mean, there's very much way more explainable reasons why birth rates were declining that is not to do with fucking otome gacha games. Come on, for crying out loud. And I'm not aggressive at Mujin here, just the people that obviously thought that. It could definitely be a minor contributing factor. This is just the same people though that say like murderers playing video games, the reason that they do it is video games. No, there's far more explainable situations why they would have done it that don't involve, oh my god, they played GTA for 30 minutes. Jesus Christ. That's just such a reach.
Some of these women would start blaming incel culture for this, while others would point out that it's just simply because it's popular. This This new dynamic would lead to some nasty fights within the gacha community, like how, for example, on the Chinese internet, some Love and Deep Space fans would go head-to-head with Snowbreak Containment Zone fans, a game that heavily targeted the male demographic. Things got very nasty there, and I would need to make a whole video to do it justice.
Oh,
but it
wow.
did end with the government intervening and pretty much censoring the hell out of Snowbreak. But
That's why Snowbreak got censored? That was the reason?
there's just an example to illustrate to you how this huge wave of attention that this game got didn't only bring positives to the community. However, as long as the developer could keep
Hey guys, everything is so expensive that we can barely afford to take care of ourselves. Much less a child, but let's blame dating games. Well, you see, this is the reason though. You've got to remember, right? Listen, you can either spend $200 on a really solid date. I'm talking dinner, drinks, go see a movie, get a cab home because you can't drive after drinking if you want to have a couple of drinks. Or pull a story card for Zane, bro. And I would rather pull a story card for Zane. That's why birth rates are declining. That's how people will genuinely justify it, bro. It's crazy. That is literally what people will say.
the Love and Deep Space community satisfied,
True. In this economy, maybe not.
nothing could stand in the way of this money printing behemoth. But with so much attention and expectations aimed towards this game, and with so much money being made, as time went on, it seemed like Paper Games was simply not prepared to blow up that much. And that lack of preparation gave them many more problems with their own community than they could have ever bargained for.
Brand like Zane, that's a win for me. Listen, gamers, I'm gonna keep it a buck, bro. All of these motherfuckers are hot as balls, right? That's kind of the point. They're not gonna make an ugly guy for this. They're all very stereotypically attractive. But if I had to pick a favorite, it's this guy. Look how fucking cool he looks, bro. He got dragon horns. He got whatever the fuck this is coming out of his chest, and he wearing armor. Bro looks like an Ra from Final Fantasy 14. Bro is Ra farming right now. He is the GOAT out of all of these for me. Other than that, though, this guy's cute.
So remember how I said that this game was all about how it made its own audience feel like they're being individually known and cared for? Well, it wasn't just the game doing this. It was the developer too. Here are some examples. Throughout the year, there will be multiple time-limited events in the game, like other gacha games. And whenever that would happen, they would take the opportunity to make these educational videos directed towards their female audience that taught them different things that they could find useful, well, as women. Here's them, for example, hiring the Beijing 2008 Olympic champion for judo. And in this 12-minute video, women who play this game would be taught about women's self-defense. Here's another example in which a faculty member at the Mental Health Education Center of the China Academy of Art would conduct a workshop about mental health. But this wouldn't just be limited to a woman's needs. Paper Games, being a Chinese developer, would also take this as an opportunity to teach their massive global audience about Chinese culture. Like how in this video, the director of Heritage Protection Division would teach the Love and Deep Space audience about China's cultural heritage.
This is cool. This reminds me of Genshin's like museum collabs and stuff, but was this more of a common thing with lads?
Using the game's revenue to fund things like this made many women express the fact that this wasn't just a community or a developer, this was a safe space specifically for women. You can see this expressed in so many of these different comments. I'm not really making it up. There are people saying that they're literally crying watching the self-defense video. And this comment right here, I think, sums it up, saying, "It's crazy and also super amazing how a dating simulator is inspiring me and others to take care of ourselves, recognize our self-worth, and even learn self-defense." This is what Love and Deep Space was for so many people. But unfortunately, as time went on...
Oh, man. It's really sad, bro, because this really was a huge community for so many people, and it just turned into, well, where we're at now. I think the reason a lot of people are so pissed now is because they feel kind of betrayed, right? I feel like that's what it is, that they're going to listen to a very loud minority of people that aren't the core audience as well. That's where I'm at with the whole Valco thing, but I'm waiting to get into the Valco stuff. But we'll see, because there could be way more to it.
This priceless relationship built on trust would start having cracks form in its foundation due to bad decisions made by the developer, mostly relating to the game itself. What do I mean by this? Well, let's go back to the example of Genshin Impact. It makes a lot of money, and in return, it's meant to give you constant updates. One update typically lasts for 40 days. Then the next update comes along.
Don't show the Ayakabara.
With new events, and more importantly, new story, advancing the plot that everyone's playing the game for. Every update would also typically have 2 brand new characters that you can pull for. And every year, you'd have a major update that would introduce an entirely new region. Now, as I mentioned before, Love and Deep Space does have a story mode. You'd have story segments that are in 3D. It's like a 3D visual novel, right? With cutscenes and voice acting. And you'd also have combat. This is easily, by far, the most important aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Story is what allows you to meet the new love interest at release, while also advancing the plot with
Yeah.
them in it.
Be a shame if they just stopped for certain love interests.
Because they interact with each other as well. They have stories that tie in together and they know each other sometimes.
Oh, they do? Wait, the love interests also interact with each other? So there's like a bit of world building that actually goes on in the Love and Deepspace universe too? I didn't know that, if that's the
As
case.
being friends. So while yes, many players get very excited about pulling for a banner because it involves a raunchy cutscene,
No.
if you had to ask them whether they prefer getting a banner of their favorite love interest or more story, the majority of them would always choose more story. But by 2025, it seemed evident that both banners and story content were just not meeting expectations. They weren't necessarily releasing fast enough for a game of this caliber, making this much money. And multiple complaints will start arising within the community that the scheduling is too inconsistent and the communication is just non-existent. Genshin Impact had a new update every 40 days. That was well established.
Yep.
Other gachas functioned very similarly. It was simply the industry standard.
Indeed.
But with Love and Deepspace, it seemed like they just released things on a whim, like as if they were winging it. When it came to limited banners, right, the ones that you had to pull for within a specific time frame, otherwise they disappear, there'd be mainly two types. A banner
Oh, I thought it was like huffing on a bong, bro. Is that a cat?
made specifically for one love interest, and a banner with all love interests combined. Now look, when it comes to combined banners, there's a lot of misinformation out there about how it works. I saw many, even Love and Deepspace players, saying that you have a 1 in 5 chance of getting the banner that you want.
Nah.
But that's not true. There's this mechanic that allows you to select the one banner that you
Okay,
really
yeah, I was
want
gonna say.
and two others that you'd also not mind having. Once you hit a 5-star, you'll randomly get one of those banners. If you don't get your precise wish, the character that you wanted the most, then this mechanic guarantees that the next time you hit a 5
So this is a 50-50 system. You have a 50-50 chance to get the character that you want or the two that you don't mind. And if you get one of the two that you don't mind, the next one is guaranteed to be the one that you want. So just think of it just like Genshin, but instead of it being like from all of the standard banner characters, you get to pick 2 standard banner characters that you want to lose to.
5-star, you will get the banner that you wanted the most.
Which is like, it's alright, but in a game like this, where like if you really like one love interest and you just want to progress their specific story, since this is what you're pulling for, by the way, stories, I don't like it, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like you should just be able to, unless you can guarantee to get like free to play, a guaranteed pull like each patch, then it might be too easy, I guess. But from what I heard from players from my chat, it is possible, but you would have to play literally every day.
So regardless of how many love interests get added to the game, whether it's 3 or 6, the odds will always remain the same. Now I want to make something clear. Remember how I said that Genshin Impact released a major update every year which involved a new region? Well, the version of this in Love and Deepspace is a new love interest. A new love interest signifies a new region. It adds more story, more lore, more depth. I mean, it was just the best thing you could hope for. But by the time the 5th
Yeah,
character...
but even if you need other character memories to do certain game mechanics, then just you as the player have the option to select it to get, right? Instead of ooh, if I lose my main one, I'll just pick this one. Like, you have the option to pick that if you need a different character memory.
Or more depth. I mean, it was just the best thing you could hope for. But by the time the 5th character came out, which was Caleb, a certain issue became very hard to ignore for the wider community. And that had to do with the fact that Paper Games now had a workload that they clearly couldn't handle anymore.
Okay.
More characters coming out with their limited resources meant that some characters would be completely neglected in favor of newer ones. And this leads us to my wonderful creation that I call the
So somebody explained this to me. Somebody said, I personally think more than 5 love interests will be too many. Imagine trying to get your favorite man when there are 6 or more love interests. How does this work when the gacha system is very clear and you get to prioritize one specific card and then pick 2 that are like your follow-ups? Surely it's just the exact same no matter how many love interests there are, because you get to prioritize one and then pick 2 to lose to. This person just doesn't get the gacha. Caleb got a lot of hate because of the trope they put him in. Yeah, but this is different. This is different. I don't know the trope they put him in, but this is just talking about the gacha system, not the hated characters. So realistically, this wouldn't have been a problem, right?
of newer ones. And this leads us to my wonderful creation that I call the neglect ranking. I made this to really illustrate to you just how disorganized the release schedule of this game was, as if they were truly winging it. Now, as I said, the most important aspect of this game is story content, but for the sake of this argument, let's look at banners first. So as you can see, the most neglected love interest in this game is Xavier. His last banner was his birthday. This happens every year for every character, by the way. And it was 9 months ago. Meanwhile, Caleb was 4 weeks ago, and Silas was 7 weeks ago at the time of recording. Now, yes, you
Okay.
can make the argument that Silas and Caleb released after the initial 3, but Is it really fair to neglect 3 of your 5 characters in favor of the 2 newer ones? What if you played this game just for Xavier or Raphael? This was very inconsistent and showed that there was no real release schedule that made it fair for everyone. But if you thought this was bad, then wait till you see the main story neglect ranking.
Oh,
Here,
God.
the most neglected is Caleb, the most recent character.
Oh my God. See, this is the issue, bro.
The last time he was in the story was in January 2025, 18 months ago.
Are you telling me that they haven't had a main story with any of the characters in 6.5 months? Like, with any of the characters? Because this is my problem with the game, bro. If you're just pulling for these, and for example, your favorite character is Zane, so he hasn't been in the main story for 1 year and 2 months. That's 14 goddamn months, right? But he also hasn't had a banner in 5.5 months. Then what are you even doing? What do you get to do in the game other than just log in daily and save up for half a year? That's so unfortunate, bro.
The time he was in the story was in January.
Why do they not update the game for 7 months, though? Like, for the story, I don't understand that. Is there a good reason for it, at least? There's gotta be.
2025, 18 months ago. His debut arc when he first released. When it came to Silas and Zane,
Caleb literally only got his release arc and then they did nothing with him for 1.5 years?
14 months ago. And when it came to the most favored characters, really, in quotations, most
Small team, I think. They got the money to expand it, bro. They make like 70 mil a month.
favored, Xavier and Raphael were in the main
my
story
God.
6 months ago. This meant that the last story content for this game was on January 2nd, 2026. We're now halfway through 2026, and there was no new main story content, period. That's without...
Because they keep focusing on the gacha memories. But again, like if you're a Zane fan, he hasn't even had a memory banner for 6 months now. If you're a Raphael fan, you've had nothing to pull for 4 months. Same with Xavier. So you're only really winning if you're a Silas or Caleb fan, right? Again, unless I'm missing something here. I don't know. That's kind of wild.
halfway through 2026, and there was no new main...
Reruns, I guess reruns, yeah. But again, like for long-term players as well, though. I get it. I understand why people are still playing. I just don't understand... I don't understand why this is the first I'm hearing of them not updating that many characters, though. I thought it would have been a louder topic, to be honest, because that's crazy. By the way, I'm saying this for the players, bro. I think this is incredibly unfair to y'all. No matter if there's reruns and stuff, I still think this is incredibly unfair with the amount of goddamn money that this company makes off of this game, for them to not update the main story in general in 6.5 months, and to not have Caleb in the main story for 1 year and 6 months, bro. Like, over 1 year for 3 characters. I'm on your side. I think this is terrible.
story content, period. That's without mentioning the characters that haven't been featured in the story for way longer than 6 months. So in comparison to other gacha games of the same tier as Love and Deepspace that make as much money, this was ridiculous. They were inconsistent with their release schedule and were not communicative enough about things to look forward to, about dates. And let's also not forget the fact that they refused to make a PC client for this game, even though their other games had it. But this was the game that was making them the most money. And so as I mentioned, this would be a recurring topic within the community starting as early as 2025. It would cause multiple dramas with different points of views giving their opinions on why it takes so long to develop the main story and release content. But overall, the biggest loss for this game were longtime players that had spent a lot of money on it, losing hope that anything was going to change. Feeling like the money and time they were spending in this game just didn't matter, like this money was being funneled to other projects and Paper Games was simply not interested in making it any better.
I do wonder what the general player-based consensus was when Infinity Nikki came out. Did they think that's where the money was going by chance? I really don't know. I still think Love and Deepspace makes infinitely more money than Infinity Nikki, right?
Start forming a narrative that they were too greedy, prioritizing memories and banners and ignoring the story. It seemed like they simply didn't really have what it took to be this big of a developer with so much success. They just weren't ready for it. As evidenced by the fact that...
Wait, so this is maybe a bit of missed information from Mujin here. We had a banner for all 5 memories for each love interest with a similar theme. 5 for each love interest, which wasn't included in this, to be honest. It's not like he didn't get anything at all. So was that new as well, though? Or was that like a rerun? If that was new, then that's fair. That's quite a lot of content, in all fairness, I would assume. New? Okay, so that was just missed from the video. Okay. Oh, that was 2 weeks ago. Okay, I mean... Yeah, never mind then. I'm sorry, no, never mind. I can't change my opinion on that if it was 2 weeks ago when there was still like 6 months, 5.5 months in between, bro. I'm sorry. Like, it's still a good thing, don't get me wrong, but if it only happened 2 weeks ago, it's still pretty shitty.
This big of a developer with so much success, they just weren't ready for it. As evidenced by the fact that things would get significantly
That was meant for
worse
Valko?
because they would somehow commit an unforgivable taboo in their own local market of China. A mistake so grave that it perfectly encapsulates the expression of shooting yourself in the foot.
Oh.
9/11 is a tragic event that would occur on United States soil on the 11th of September 2001. It's best known for the 2 passenger planes that were hijacked full of passengers that collided into the 2 towers of the World Trade Center. There would, of course,
Sorry, just so that doesn't get clipped out of context, I'm not laughing at 9/11, I'm laughing at the sudden transition to what the fuck? Why is that getting... That was very shocking.
be 2 other planes involved,
Jesus.
one that would crash into the Pentagon and one that tried to crash into the White House but failed. Now, this was an event that happened over 25 years ago, and odds are, if I went to the US right now and made a joke centered around 9/11, everyone would find it funny, assuming I have good humor, except
Jay Schlatt did that, right? I'm pretty sure.
for those who were directly involved in those events.
Yes.
Using a family member, a relative, or a friend. Hell, I could probably make a joke about Pearl Harbor, a tragic event that occurred during World War II. And again, the majority would probably not care. That's just how culture works in the United States when it comes to sensitive events.
Sure.
Nothing holds weight there for too long. Now, on the other hand, when it comes to East and Southeast Asia, actually, you know what? Probably the majority of Asia at this point, but let's just focus on East Asia for now. Tragic events, no matter when they happen throughout history, still hold immense weight even today. Their dates, their anniversaries, their names, they are ingrained into society, and no one would ever dare joke about them. This cultural clash can be perfectly illustrated during the meeting between President Trump of the United States and Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi of Japan. Trump would make a Pearl Harbor joke right to the Prime Minister's face and laugh it off.
I also think it's like, it's different when someone says it, you know, in a friend group or on the street, but when a president says it to another president, it's like, are we fucking for real? Like, come on, bro.
Something perfectly acceptable in the United States. This is passable. Takaichi, on the other hand, I mean, you can see the facial expression on her. She was mortified. If she would have made a Pearl Harbor joke, or hell, I don't know, a Hiroshima or Nagasaki joke in Japan, she'd get impeached within less than 24 hours. That's just how the culture works there. And so, this is why it was extremely clumsy and stupid and tone deaf for Paper Games, a Chinese developer, to release a lore chapter on April 2026 about the character Xavier, where they talk about human experimentation and other dark themes, while titling it Test Record A0731.
31st of July?
Like, even if I hired someone to sabotage this company from within, they wouldn't come up with such a genius idea. When you say the 3 numbers 731 to any Chinese person...
Oh, okay, I heard about this. I still have no context on what this actually is, by the way, so this is all news to me. Let me lock in for a second.
...who was educated in a state school, for example, they'll immediately think of one thing. Unit 731 of the Japanese Imperial Army during World War II. This was a secret research facility that was operated between 1933 and 1945 on occupied Chinese territory, more specifically in Harbin. This is where the Japanese would experiment on over 200,000 human beings from China. They would say it's to advance medicine, but in reality, many of these experiments were just morbid and sadistic. I'm not going to go into full detail because I'll get demonetized and age restricted, but you can read about this yourself. I can give you an example though. They'd have pregnant women in captivity in Unit 731, and those babies would be born in captivity as well. Those incredible scientists would come up with the idea to experiment on those babies, but not like any experiments. It would just be like, hey, I'm bored. Why don't we throw like a few babies in this frozen river outside and see how long it takes for them to die? Yeah, I wish I was making things up, bro. This was Unit 731. This is well known.
Not that well known to me, bro. What the fuck? Wow.
Yeah, I wish I was making things up, bro. This was Unit 731. This is well known in Asia, specifically in China, because of how horrendous it was. But it's not really taught to Westerners. It's not taught in...
No, that's what I'm saying, bro. That's...
schools. In China, though, to this day, even in 2026, you say 731 to anyone, they'll know what you're talking about. There's a reason, many different reasons, that Chinese still hold Japanese people in very negative regard, even in 2026. This is without me mentioning the...
Dude, dead ass? No idea about that. Oh my god.
rape of Nanjing, for example. And so as a Chinese company...
The what?
This is without me mentioning the rape of Nanjing, for example. And so as a Chinese company, to have a lore text about human
Oh, that's literally what he just spoke about. It's literally a whole book about how insane the Japanese people were to China.
Experimentation with the number 731 is just, it's insane. It's genuinely insane. But when it first came out in April 2026, it didn't really bring much controversy. In fact, most people didn't even know about it or didn't really care. The reason why I'm telling you about this right now is because this is going to bite them in the ass very badly later. For now, though, the Love and Deep Space community was laser focused on one thing and one thing only. When is my story content going to come out already? But here's the thing, ever since the game released with 3 characters, there's always been a coming soon text on the bottom right.
Oh my god, it was ordained by fate, bro.
Indicating that there's going to be more love interests to come out. And so when Silas and Caleb released, their updates were so major because they came with more story content, with banners, with all sorts of things. And so many were wondering when this 6th character was finally going to come out, because this meant more story finally after a 6-month drought. Well, around the end of June 2026, the Love and Deep Space community would finally get an answer to this. And while this was meant to be a period of immense joy...
What was the context for the 731 and the lads thing? This was an experimental thing, test subjects and stuff, so they were referencing the actual thing. It's like human research. It is pretty fucked up, to be honest. It is. Yeah. I don't know. I see that as pretty fucked up, to be fair.
Wondering when this 6th character was finally going to come out, because this meant more story finally after a 6-month drought. Well, around the end of June 2026, the Love and Deep Space community would finally get an answer to this.
Yep.
And while this was meant to be a period of immense joy and excitement, it ended up turning into the biggest existential threat that this game and studio have ever faced since opening their doors in 2012.
Listen, I will be very honest here. If they release Valco, I will play the game. Deadass, I will. If they release Valco as a playable love interest, or not playable, but just love interest, I will play Love and Deep Space for the first time. I will, and I'll give it my undivided attention for like a few days.
All right, so it's now June 22nd, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere...
Spicy scenes and all, I will revel in them.
Love and Deep Space players receive an in-game message telling them that they're about to witness a once-in-a-century supermoon, asking them to go watch a live stream that was going to take place on the same day. This really came out of nowhere, and it shows you that they're kind of winging it with their scheduling. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Something like this would typically get like a week's notice.
Yep.
In any case, the supermoon countdown would take hold. People waited with bated breath to see what this announcement was going to be, and then all of a sudden...
See, this is all new to me as well. I didn't know how much prep they did for this, and I still don't know how many people's like original reaction was excitement versus disappointment to Valco. Let's see.
It was right there. A new character would be announced, Valco. Half wolf, half human. And as you can see by the chat on the global live stream that has...
I think it's really important to, for the people that are like boycotting lads right now, I do think it's really important to stand your ground and boycott what you actually believe in. However, I also think it's equally as important that when you see a company make a positive change and decision related to your boycott, that you also show some support to show that because they are making good changes, they're gonna get support for making the good changes. Otherwise, because what I see happening all the time is people will boycott an entire company based off horrible decisions that they've done. And then when they start making actual good decisions, they're like, well, it's too late now. It's too late. The damage is done. And all that does is reinforces them to make the shitty decisions all over again. So I am of the belief that if you're boycotting so that they fix things. Otherwise, you're not boycotting. You just quit and you don't like it anymore. Right? It's not a boycott at that point, I feel like. You're boycotting because you want change.
Half wolf, half human. And as you can see by the chat on the global live stream that has almost 1 million views, the community was extremely excited. Damn. All of them spamming, ow, like a wolf. Unable to wait to see him in action, both in combat, but also the story, because a new character, as I said, signified a new region. So this was huge. However, in another live stream they would do shortly after, they would announce something else. Another major feature, which was the Home 2.0 update.
The kitchen expansion. Wait, what?
You have a home that you can hang out with your love interests, and this time around, they were adding a kitchen where you can cook together with them. And take
That's
pictures,
actually kind of cool.
However, in the announcement trailer, they would use this sentence saying, "Never bathe in the pot." This was very, very tone deaf, just like with the whole 7.
Wait, why?
3-1 business, because the Chinese viewers, they felt that it was in reference to what had happened back in the year of 2024, where a man in Shanxi made the soul of his girlfriend evaporate to heaven by pouring extremely hot noodle broth on her using a pot.
My initial reaction, I didn't know about this, but if I did know about this, I don't think I would have put 2 and 2 together for this one to like correlate those two. This is fucked up. But then at the same time, I don't know why they would have put that sentence, bathe in the pot, otherwise, to be fair. It's a very weird sentence to just use without context. It might feel like a stretch, but at the same time, I'm like, why else would they say that?
So due to this, the phrase bathing in a pot had become dark lingo online, referencing this specific case. For example, you could tell someone, hey, go bathe in a pot, and people would understand you weren't wishing them well. So already this was causing a lot of controversy, even though...
So was that already a thing before the Love and Deepspace thing? Were people saying, like, go bathe in a pot in reference to this? Because if they were, then yeah, no, that's incredibly tone deaf and fucked up. Yeah, okay, then...
A new love interest was just announced, and it was meant to be something very exciting. At the same time, in Valco's trailer, they would also use yet another very exciting...
this guy...
At the same time, in Valco's...
This guy is huge. Jesus Christ.
Trailer, they would also use yet another controversial sentence while teasing him, saying, invite the wolf in. In the Chinese livestream, they had used a Chinese idiom, meaning to invite disaster by letting an enemy inside your home. Seeing that his character concept involves him breaking into the female protagonist's home, that didn't help. What also didn't help was that his dialogue included, what's wrong with inviting the wolf in? Just peek inside and she'll open her door for you.
Okay, this, I do think, is, like, the wording of it is bad, but the backlash that I've seen is very unproportional in correlation to other love interests who've also done some pretty fucked up stuff and said some pretty fucked up stuff. Am I incorrect for that? Am I off base? Because I've been told, again, I haven't played the game, it's only what I've been told, that other love interests are also pretty, you know, a little bit fucking crazy and a little bit manipulative and stuff. Absolutely. He doesn't break in, the player lets him in. Well, that's why he's saying, like, invite me in. An uninvited wolf's sudden surprise ambush in the moonlight. Okay, so the character himself did nothing wrong, right? It's a character. The way they're portraying it here, though, I do think is just incorrectly. I think they're portraying it in a bad light then. I think they did a very bad job at portraying what they meant for this character to be saying, if that is the case. Climb through the window, enter the room, like that. The hunter that is alone at home must be very careful. An uninvited wolf's sudden surprise ambush in the moonlit night. Climb through the window, enter the room. Like, it's literally being portrayed horrifically. It's being portrayed horrific. It's the tone of it. It's everything about it is just portrayed terribly. No, it was all twisted. Is this not what it actually says? Are you saying this is twisted? Are you saying that the translation is twisted here? Because if I read this, it sounds pretty messed up. Seems to be like it was super edgy marketing that people twisted in the worst light. Let me read the actual thing here. Compared to the EN version, the wording in CN here has more warning tone, which got interpreted. I wish I could see the EN version as well. Oh, it is here. Home Alone Hunter, better watch out. The English version seems way better. Take me in for the night, trying to muzzle me. Now the whole forest knows you're my emergency ration. He's a wolf, bro. And what's so bad about wolves being at the door? One peek is enough for him to open the doors for you. It seems, yeah, she seems to be inviting him in, of course, but I'm very confused if this is like an accurate translation from the CN, the orange one, chat. Is it or no? It's literally the Three Little Pigs story. That's what I thought instantly before this even came up, bro. Oh, not even Three Little Pigs, but more like Little Red Riding Hood as well. It's just wolf in... like in general. The translation isn't really correct, I think, from someone who speaks Chinese. Okay, so yeah, if it's being twisted to make it sound like this, then yeah, of course. Anything can be... Listen, we know as good as anybody, bro. Anything can be twisted to make it seem bad if you just completely recontextualize what it's about, right? Come on. This is why it's important to get the full context here. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't seem as bad as people made it out to be.
Pot controversy. Some Chinese players felt that Love and Deepspace was packaging illegal home invasion as a romantic fantasy. Using
he asked for permission from MC to go inside. He didn't invade anything.
Language that explicitly frames a woman's private space as available to enter without consent. So this, on top of the whole bathe in the pot thing, went against the idea of this being a safe space for women, and it caused a lot of controversy as well. And if that was...
Just for my own kind of peace of mind here, because I really don't understand a lot of this, but if I do like... The direct translation of that on screen is literally just Home Alone Hunter, better watch out. Or a hunter alone at home, be careful. And then this one is just enter through the window, from what it says. It seems just like poorly translated.
For women, and it caused a lot of controversy as well. And if that wasn't enough, the Valco trailer that was posted on Chinese social media would get bombarded with over 750,000 comments, many of them very negative. Because many players would express the fact that not only did they not feel safe around him because he'll break into your home or whatever, but they heavily disliked the way he looked, calling it too much of a Western look, saying things like, can it be released on the international server separately? And telling the developer either go offline or make it look better, it referring to Valco. Here's this comment, for example, getting 300 likes. No obligation to support the new Western male lead, refund, and shut down the server. With many also expressing the same thing by saying, just please release it on the global servers and leave the Chinese server
This feels so weak, bro.
alone, I'm begging you. At the same time, very toxic elements of the Chinese community would sprout out and would start insulting Western players, calling them Western white whores while also telling Paper Games, hey, you fucking forgotten who your main donor is. You've forgotten who makes you the most money, us, the Chinese players. There will be some very nasty comments all around made towards Westerners because of Valko being teased. But it wouldn't just be his Western look that would turn them off. It goes back to what I was talking about the community grievances that had started spawning in 2025. The whole idea about the inconsistent release schedule, how some characters were getting main story releases and some others weren't, and for some reason there'd be complaints about the fact that the gacha odds are now worse with a 6th character. Instead of having a 1 in 5 chance of getting the banner you want, you have a 1 in 6 chance. I really have no idea why this became a thing because I explained in this video how the banner system works. I guess we can call these people LARPers. And on
Well, I've had actual players in my chat tell me that not all of the banners work that way though, right? Only a few of the banners work that way. A lot of the banners are just like Genshin banners where it is an actual 50-50 and you can lose to anybody. Is that correct, chat? I'm a LARPer in this situation. Technically, Muji's a LARPer. He doesn't play the game. It's kind of confusing. It's very confusing. I will admit that much. But based on what players are saying, it seems some of the banners you can choose what you lose the 50-50 to, and the majority of the banners you can't. But either way, it doesn't take away from the abhorrent nature of what is going on here.
On top of that, there will be complaints about inconsistent story narratives, saying that Valko is a core leader of a villainous group in the story that has harmed all existing protagonists. So in a way, some didn't want a romantic interest that hurt the other romantic interests.
Is that true?
But honestly, this was surprising to me that this was even a narrative, because even in his own trailer, it's explained that Valko is the Eon Core Tech chairman, not having anything to do with Ever. So this was yet another rumor that spawned on the Chinese internet that for some reason spread like wildfire. Are you
So people are just lying on his name. Damn, that must feel horrible.
starting to understand why this whole topic is so convoluted? Like, I'm genuinely so confused half the time. And on top of that, for some reason, I guess maybe it's a cultural thing, many Chinese female players feel like a wolf or a bear character is gay. So there were many complaints that Valko was gay, actually. This was really something that you could find.
So funny. I've seen every end of the spectrum here, bro. Just misinformation. It goes around like wildfire, bro. Brand's falling in love with a wolf. Well, here's the thing. You've got some people saying he's gay, and then some people saying he looks too masculine. I think I saw some people saying he looks that masculine that only men would be attracted to him, and I was like, okay, what? What? Excuse you? What do you mean by that?
A lot on Chinese social media. And I guess the problem with having a gay character, in their opinion, was the fact that Love and Deepspace would attract gay male players, and they don't.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, please, because I do not want to make any baseless assumptions, but it really wouldn't make sense if he was gay, like straight up gay in the story, right? Because isn't the point of a love interest to be with the main character who is female? I don't think there is a male character, right? It literally would not make sense if he was gay, I don't think. But he could be bi, exactly. But I'm saying if he was straight up gay, like that's it, that's the only label that they're going to put on him, it makes zero sense. They're just making shit up to hate on pixels, bro. It's so embarrassing.
Want that. They only want this game to be directed towards women. Now, on this extremely
gays also probably play lads, 100%, but you've got to look at it from the developer point of view, not the player-centric point of view. Because this is also a Chinese game. They're not going to do that, bro. Like, it's just so obviously made up to just hurt the people that actually enjoy this character. It's so insane to me.
ratioed post on Chinese social media, they would do their best to communicate with their player base, to calm any grievances they might have and tell them, hey, trust us. For example, this is them replying to someone that called Valko gay, saying, all the male protagonists are heterosexual. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever.
Jesus, they really hammered that home. And that's what I'm saying. Jesus, that's wild.
And they would reply with things like, I'm sorry, after you've calmed down a bit from venting, could you please take a look at this wolf and give him a try? Please. Damage control was in full swing.
Okay, I like that one. I like that one. The other one, I feel like you don't have to explain to everybody that the male protagonist is heterosexual in this case, right? Like, the majority of players know that this is a Chinese game, and the developers are going to portray characters in a very specific light. It is what it is, especially in an otome game that is heavily centered around the female MC. I don't think there is a male MC. And again, if this was just purely a global thing, it'd be a bit different, but it's not. It's not. I think the reply, I'm sorry, after you've calmed down a bit from venting, could you please take a look at this wolf and give it a try? It's kind of fire. It's kind of fire. I like that. I like that a lot.
But these replies would be posted on Chinese social media known as Xiaohongshu, and the comments weren't really impressed. They really just didn't like the character, and they didn't really like the direction the game was headed in.
See, here's my thing. Not liking the character is one thing. Telling them to remove it is an entirely different thing. Not liking the direction the game is going is a totally separate thing as well. I have a feeling, and I could be entirely wrong about this, but it seems like a lot of players were just very disheartened with the lack of updates, and they saw a character that they really weren't that interested in, and they focused all of their negative energy on that instead of the fact that they haven't updated the main story in 6 months, 6.5 months, and they haven't had a certain banner for this character in fucking a year and a half. Like, it's all misdirected anger, it feels like. Maybe it is purposefully directed anger for some people, which I think that's just kind of sad.
It was in massive contrast to the global audience, okay? Like, this is Valko's trailer that was released on Twitter, and it didn't just get 5 million views and a lot of
54K likes is crazy.
Many of the top comments, in fact, all of them were very, very excited for him.
Dude, I think he just looks fucking cool.
It would actually be hard to find any negativity on this post. Unfortunately, none of these players are local, okay? They're all outside of China, and the people that had a problem with paper games were in China. It wasn't all of them, but it was a very loud and toxic chunk of the community. So
yeah, a loud and toxic minority can do irreparable damage, bro.
much so that they would take this to ridiculous levels, sending literal cow poop to the studio. Many players would go around the building and take pictures of themselves giving a middle finger to the studio. And there were some that employed an amazing tactic used by South Korean crazy K-pop fans, which is also sending the studio funeral flowers. There'd even be a wolf paw in front of the studio meant to advertise Valko, and it would get vandalized. The police would have to show up and install yellow tape around it so that no one else messes with it again. And to make matters worse, someone live-streamed themselves with a knife in front of the building, trying to make
It's just insane. Oh my god, I hope they got arrested.
their way in. Here are some images, with a third image being censored with the weapon. I wish this was a joke. Here's a 9-second clip that was recorded in front of the studio that kind of shows you the chaos that they were dealing with after Valko's announcement, with someone just screaming insults towards the studio. Watch.
Holy fuck, get a life, bro. You are chronically online if it affects you this fucking much. Holy shit. Don't even send them to prison. Just take away their phone for 24 hours.
And so soon after, this would start being reported on by international media outlets. And on top of all this, Love and Deepspace would lose over 1 million followers across all their Chinese social platforms. This was a very big deal, and it was becoming uncontrollable. No matter what they tried to quell the damage, it was done. But that didn't mean they wouldn't try anyway. On June 27th, 2026, just 5 days after the initial announcement of Valko, Love and Deepspace would make an announcement for the global audience, in which they say,
About this person, we don't know why she was there. People are saying she was confused and meant to go to a local bank because she was talking about money. Why was she shouting at Valko? I'm so confused now. What the hell? So was that also an out-of-context clip to make the situation look worse? Bro, why is this situation even such a big deal, man?
Deepspace Valko, Love and Deepspace would
The game finally releases more content, and then this happens.
make an announcement for the global audience, in which they say,
Oh, it was because she wanted a refund? Oh, maybe. Oh, interesting. Possibly. You thought she wanted her money back? That could be it, if some people mishear it as like banks and stuff. Yeah, it could be the case.
Dear Deepspace Hunters, recently the development team has received a great deal of feedback and many suggestions regarding the game. We have also heard your concerns about the team's capacity to consistently deliver high-quality content in the future. So this has to do with their inconsistent updates, right? We would therefore like to take this opportunity to respond with the care that your trust and expectations deserve.
Brand, flex your muscles. I'll flex my muscles for you, but you gotta understand, I'm not muscly, bro. I'm built like a fucking twink, dead ass. Like, this is literally my muscle, bro. I am literally built like a twink, and I'm fine with it because I'm going to the gym soon. Watch this space a year from now. I'll be in Love and Shallow space because I'm not quite as good enough for Love and Deep Space.
From the very beginning, we have hoped to make Love and Deep Space a romantic world that continues to grow alongside every Deep Space hunter, a world filled with more diverse experiences and lasting companionship. This hope has guided us throughout the game's development and remains at the heart of everything we are working toward. The development of Valko and his related content is part of the long-term content plan for Love and Deep Space. However, we recognize that the way the information about Valko was presented did not give sufficient consideration to your expectations and concerns regarding the game's future content plans. As a result, many hunters have been left with questions and worries since Valko's initial announcement. We sincerely apologize for any frustration and unease this has caused. We have also heard your concerns about whether future content can continue to be delivered consistently without compromising on quality. Please be assured that the Love and Deepspace development team has continued to grow since the game's launch. The main story chapters you have been waiting for are currently in active development. The stories of Farspace Colonel Caleb and Onikinus leader Silas will continue, and a new series of Solar Slot Memories will also be arriving soon. The the development team will continue to deliver richer game experiences and high-quality content on a consistent basis. We also understand that these concerns are not simply about the pace of updates.
Just imagine, we got the frickin' Snezhnaya teaser. In that Snezhnaya teaser, they showed the Sarita, a very anticipated character for a long time, and she looks nothing like people wanted. People really wanted that Alicia XP, right? They wanted that Archon of love, and she looks cold and far and distant, and oh my god, she hates her people? What is this new information that's been presented? After that, people start spinning a false narrative of the Sarita, and just before Snezhnaya is due to come out, they just say, all right, you know what, never mind, we've heard your disgruntled opinions about the Sarita. She's not what you want, like, we've portrayed her in a different way. We're just gonna cancel Snezhnaya. It's kind of different because obviously this is rooted in way different things than just not being the image of what people wanted. It's rooted more so in misunderstandings, but also twisted narratives, right? It's like people saying the Sarita's freaking racist for not liking the Fae or something. Like, something insane that's obviously just crazy. I'm just very surprised this actually happened, bro. It's insane. It's crazy to me. I'm surprised they listened to the extent to just not go forward with the update. It actually blows my mind.
Come from how deeply you care about love and Deepspace and the love interests who have been by your side throughout this journey. It is because you cherish every moment you have shared with them that you hope this companionship will continue for many years to come. For this reason, we want to make this commitment to you. The stories, companionship, and future of every love interest will always remain an essential part of the long-term plans for Love and Deepspace.
Which is fine, but you've also had a coming soon section at the bottom of the characters list for however many years that there was going to be another character, and now you've gone back on that. So the people that have been playing this game expecting a new love interest, maybe they really like the current ones, but they were also super excited for a new one. And it's like, you just totally go back on that because a few really loud, horrible people are shitting on you for it. You basically just lose the trust of the entire player base that actually had good intentions. I don't understand the decision.
This will not change for any reason. In close with this,
and I also feel bad for the devs, dude. I do, because this decision probably wasn't off the backs of the people that actually designed this character and the lore surrounding this character. They are the victims here as well, bro.
Our Deepspace Wish 10 and Empyrean.
That's a lot of years probably of work that has gone into this character that is just squandered because of a few really loud, immature fans.
10. Please log into the game before July 23rd to claim them from your in-game mailbox. Once again, we would like to thank every Deepspace Hunter for the encouragement, honest feedback, and support you have given us throughout this journey. We know that it is your unwavering love and support that give meaning to everything we do and guide us forward. In the future, the development team will keep working hard to bring you more high-quality content and a better game experience worthy of your support. We hope you have a wonderful day in Lincoln City and many more wonderful days to come. Signed, the Love and Deepspace development team. And so look, this was in reference to the fact that in this game, there's currency. Currency you can earn by playing the game that you can also buy. This announcement for Valko came out of nowhere. Some people were probably not prepared, didn't save up enough to be able to pull for his banner, and they didn't really want to miss out on the memory.
So this was the first post I think that they actually made about the entire situation, which was very PR reading, which is also understandable, but it was also kind of reinforcing the fact that they were, you know, standing strong on their beliefs. Like, sorry, we could have represented this character better. We will do better at that going forward. He's still coming. Like, keep your eyes peeled. I will look forward to the Wolf Boy.
It was Love and Deepspace acknowledging that the announcement came out of nowhere and that in the future they would keep them updated ahead of time, while also taking into consideration that they should probably have a more consistent schedule that takes every love interest into account. This gave hope to many global players who might have had
This is a really good message. If they'd have left it here, amazing. But they had to huff and puff and blow y'all's house down.
Grievances with the game's development schedule, and many had a lot of optimism. However, global players were not their main concern right now. It was the Chinese players, and they were about to pull out a very dirty strategy to punish the developer into kneeling down and obeying their wishes, which is removing Valko from the game. And that strategy involves getting the attention of the Chinese state. And so, remember that good old test record A0731?
Oh, God.
Yeah, well, even though it came out in April, it would get brought out again in June during the Valko controversy, and so a new narrative would form. Paper Games is an enemy of the state, and they have a Japanese mole inside that is there to mock the Chinese people and their suffering. So within just a few days after Valko had been announced, this narrative would spread like wildfire, so much so that it would force Love and Deepspace to make a statement on the 29th of June, talking about it, as well as the other grievances the community had.
This happened?
It would be posted on the Chinese social media website known as Weibo. And here's what they'd have to say after translating it through Google Translate. Recently, we have noticed many discussions circulating online regarding the game and promotional content of Love and Deepspace. We sincerely apologize for any misunderstandings and negative experiences caused. Thank you for your continued attention, and we will humbly accept opinions from all parties. To avoid such content affecting the gaming experience of our players...
Not wrong, though. I mean, to say that they've got a worm in the company, like one singular worm, bro, do you realize how many, like, checks these updates have to go through and stuff before they get actually released to the public? No, it's not wrong, though, I don't think. I think they just made really stupid fucking decisions. I don't think they did it out of, like, super ill intent, right?
We would like to clarify and explain these issues.
And I'm talking specifically about the 731 stuff here. Like, it was in very much distaste. It was horribly distasteful. But I don't think it was... I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe I'm giving too much grace. Genuinely, I don't know.
As follows. Number 1. Date controversy in the world's depths. Harmony with Light and Dust. We received feedback from players that the Harmony with Light and Dust update on April 21st contained a number that could easily lead to misunderstandings. We took this very seriously and immediately conducted an internal investigation. It has been confirmed that the number is a fictitious date, a placeholder without any actual meaning, and has not been packaged in any way. We fully understand the potential misunderstandings that this random number may cause and will complete the online modification as quickly as possible today. This issue exposed the lack of sensitivity.
I mean, can I be honest? I don't think it's that deep. Am I nuts? Just an unfortunate date? Okay, I'm going to be very honest here. I think that's bullshit. The fact that it was that specific date and it was put specifically on a thing about, like, human experimentation and stuff, I think that's bullshit. That feels like way too much of a coincidence. Maybe I'm crazy. I could be. But just from a personal perspective, from an outsider perspective, the fact that it was put on something that was clearly, like, referencing that situation with that date, it seems purposeful. Like, you could apologize for it and regret it, and they're probably writing it this way for the law, right, and government stuff, to be fair. I heard that those made that false report are also being investigated by the government too. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if they have the Hoyle level of depth in law writing, to be honest. That doesn't take Hoyle level of depth in law writing, bro. Does not. I think they were just referencing it, and it was in poor taste. That's what I saw from it.
Activity among some members of the development team. We will strengthen training to prevent such situations from recurring. We will also further improve our internal review mechanism, paying attention to every detail to ensure the quality of online content. Number 2. Controversy arising from some marketing copy. In the promotional material released on June 25th, marking 3 days until the livestream's countdown, the phrase, "taking a bath in a pot," was accused of containing a suggestive reference. In reality, this copy was a teaser for the upcoming Home 2.0 update's kitchen gameplay, written in a non-everyday style to match the livestream's Strange Tales of Rules theme. So this is badly translated, but what they were saying was the teaser was like in a horror theme, and this was meant to match this horror theme. This is why they used that phrase. It had nothing to do with that incident that happened in 2024.
Okay, I could get that. Again, I just think it's a really weird sentence to say. Like, don't take a bath in the pot. I've never heard that in my life, even as like a joke or something. I've just never heard that sentence. Maybe it's just a poorly translated sentence as well, and I'm getting the wrong end of the stick here. But yeah, I don't know what to make of that one, because it is just a weird thing to say. Whether or not it was referencing something, it's just strange.
Continue and say, due to the widespread circulation of misinterpretations for this content, all related content has been removed to avoid unnecessary confusion for players. We urge everyone not to believe such rumors. Furthermore, the inviting the wolf into the house text in the trailer.
Thing is, I don't know why they would do any of this as a company. Like, can we just talk about that for a second? Why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense to actually go out of their way to reference horrible things that happened with just a kitchen update. I don't think they did it maliciously. Lawwriter might be getting freaky. I don't know, bro. I don't know. If you go for the option that has the least amount of jumping to conclusions, for me, personally, I just come to, like, it's just strange choices. Yeah, it seems like a big stretch for that one. I don't know what the references are and stuff as well. Yeah, it's just odd.
Released on June 28th, the law.
It doesn't make sense for the company to shoot them in the foot intentionally by doing that kind of stuff, is what I'm saying. It really doesn't.
Instinct is simply a copywriting element related to the new male protagonist's werewolf identity and has no other meaning. We have noticed some controversy surrounding this text. To avoid affecting the player experience, this text and all related materials will be uniformly changed to Pure Love Wolf King.
I mean, that's fair.
And then in the last part of the statement, they would clarify, we don't make characters specific.
So the options are 1, ill intent, or 2, horrible incompetence. I mean, there's definitely other options. I'm just saying, like, the option that I go to in my head is horrible incompetence. There's definitely things, other reasons that they could have done it, or even, like, accidental things, for sure. But what's being portrayed by other people is ill intent. What I took it as was horrible incompetence. Yeah. Doesn't mean to say there's not other options, though. There definitely is.
For one audience or demographic, this idea that it's a Western male character is just not true. And also, this
Yeah,
rumor
it's not.
about us being an all-gender-oriented game is utterly absurd, ignoring our consistent positioning as an otome game. In other words, no gays allowed, okay? This is a
Damn, yeah, okay, that's kind of crazy.
female-only game. Stop with these stupid rumors. They also
Jesus.
defend themselves. As a Chinese company who have
And again, Chinese company, bro. Like, if they're making this entire statement as a thing to be like, government, please don't shut us down. This is what I was talking about earlier. They're gonna be very aggro on that point, right? That's why I'm saying they're not making these characters for dudes to enjoy. Dudes will enjoy these characters, and my God, you should. But the company, they can't make that obvious, right? They can't make that obvious because it's a Chinese game. They'd be gone before they could freaking release Valko if they were gonna anyway.
always considered this our responsibility and have never stopped promoting Chinese culture overseas. Like, they just took a stand here and reminded everyone, yo, these rumors are absurd. We do so much to spread Chinese culture overseas to Western players. You saying that we only care about Western players and don't care about Chinese players is ridiculous. And so this post would get over 1.6 million likes, but also over 200,000 comments. The top comment would be saying, I'd rather take Valko off the shelves. With over 136,000 likes, the reply to that would be, remove Valko from the platform. And another reply would say, our demands are, number 1, remove Valko. Number 2, compensate for gacha resources. And number 3, the production team should deeply reflect on their own problems and issue an apology. While
That is very ironic. I've been seeing a lot of irony like this, but wow.
promising to not add any new male leads. In fact,
That's crazy. Why? I'm very confused on the CN fans standing right now, with or against Valko. Is this global versus CN or both against the company? So, okay, I don't want to generalize it that much, but in the grand scheme of things, the way that it's kind of been laid out in front of us right now is that CN fans were the ones that had a problem with Valko. Global did not. The company listened to the CN fans, said that they were going to stop with Valko, and then the global fans have now a problem with the company and the CN fans. It's not as black and white.
In fact, all the top comments are just shitting on the developer, saying that they deserve all the controversy going their way, and that this was a bad statement. Now, new rumors were popping up. Paper Games was arrogant. They don't know how to apologize. They don't know how to take a step back. They're an enemy of the state, and they're not even apologetic about it. What didn't make it any better to Paper Games, honestly, is the fact that they would replace the 731 number with 611, which was another tragedy that involved Japanese forces invading the town of Daojiao. 3,000 villagers were rounded up and killed, and you know how stories go with the Japanese, okay? They're literally the evil villains of Asia up until after World War II, when they became the anime central capital of the world. I really need to specify here, though, I haven't seen a single screenshot showing that whole 611 mistake. This most likely seems to be yet another false rumor created on the Chinese internet that spread even to the West. But like the other things so far in this video...
Exactly. There's going to be a lot of CN fans that fuck with Valko as well, bro, and there's going to be a lot of global fans that don't. It's not black and white like people want it to be, but this is the... I guess this is the story that's being spun.
It had already spread like wildfire and created yet another rumor involving the CEO. Paper Games wasn't just an enemy of the state, the CEO also was. Why? Because he studied in a Japanese university by the name of Waseda University as an economics major. So he was the internal mole. He was the one who put 731 on purpose because he hates China. He's actually a secret Japanese citizen. But here's where things truly got out of control when it came to the whole 731 situation. I know, it already got out of control. They're being made to be...
It's shocking how ridiculous some people can be, bro.
...an enemy of the state. How could it get any worse? Well, you would have multiple media outlets in China create articles in which they would attribute the number 731 with Valko specifically. You'd even have the news publication Beijing Daily, which is of course government affiliated, talk about this too, and talk about 731 and how it's...
Okay, so this is where it starts to feel manufactured, because that number had nothing to do with him as a character. Nothing. It was years before. So this is the manufactured outrage that people were referencing with the 731 stuff. Like, the 731 stuff did seem a little bit bad, but, or like pretty bad to be fair, but then this is just made up.
...associated with Valko. In reality, this was false. This was an archive file that was talking about lore relating to Xavier. But this misinformation had spread so far and wide because it was literally being talked about by news publications that many took it as fact. Oh, so Valko is not only ugly and looks like a Westerner and doesn't care about the Chinese audience, but he's also an insult to Chinese culture and China as a country because 731 is associated with his lore. That's false, and many Westerners also were caught with this misinfo, believing it to be true. This was becoming a very big problem to Paper Games. I mean, these news publications were publishing shorts in which they talked about Paper Games' statement and were associating 731 with Valko. And other than just media publications, you even have associations, like the China Women's Association.
There's also a very worldwide kind of global phenomenon, which I don't know the actual thing for this, so just bear with me for a second. You know when you go to get like your blood pressure taken at a hospital, if you take your own blood pressure, it might be pretty normal, but if you go to a hospital and a doctor takes it, it can skyrocket every single time. And it's called something like white coat syndrome, which is basically whenever you see someone who's an actual doctor doing doctor stuff to you, your body fights against it. You panic, right? Like your body instantly goes against it. It's a very common thing, actually. I don't know the actual terminology for this because it's a similar thing, but whenever you see news from what appears to be a news source, you are way more likely to just straight up believe it rather than just a random Twitter account or something, right? So when people see these news sources spread misinformation, they believe it almost instantly without doing any more research. And I can't even blame them for it because you are conditioned to trust news sources. You are. But in this toxic day and age of the internet, where Twitter especially, I don't trust anything I see on Twitter nowadays, dude, because Twitter, literally, it's monetized in a sense that it promotes misinformation and bad information and more negativity. So it's like you just can't believe it. It's crazy.
They talked about Paper Game's statement and were associating 731 with Valco. And other than just media publications, you even have associations, like the China Women's Association that is affiliated with the government, also make content expressing outrage at the whole letting the wolf in sentence, or the whole never bathe in the pot sentence, pushing the narrative further that this game is not safe for women, that it's their enemy. They weren't alone in this regard, because there would be another association by the name National Defense Education that would make a blog post echoing those same statements. But believe it or not, things would get even worse. The people who wanted Valco gone wanted the attention of the government by any means necessary. And other than creating the narrative of enemy of the state, they would also do something else that's sure to attract eyes from the government at any given moment in time. And that is creating countless complaints to the China Consumers Association, saying that they got scammed by this company. Over 60,000 verified complaints were made in the span of just a few days. And honestly, it doesn't even matter if they're real or not, okay? This is a way that many Chinese people boycott or target companies that have screwed them in some way. Because at the 40,000 complaint mark, automatic safeguards get triggered at any given company. This means that automatically the China Consumers Protection Agency contacts that company just to see what's going on. And so, with this unbelievable and unprecedented pressure that was put on Paper Games, even with them already addressing this and doubling down, kind of defending themselves, on June 30th, they would post a letter pretty much announcing that they were going to cancel Valco's release and not release any more love interests in the game for the foreseeable future.
It's not only one of the biggest mistakes you could do to not release Valco, but then to say you're not releasing another love interest when you've literally had the coming soon for God knows how long, even if it is just for the foreseeable future. This paints a very clear picture that the community just can't trust what you're doing then.
Just as a reminder, it had been barely a week since the first trailer for Valco, and they were already canceling everything.
Jesus.
So this is like as if Genshin announced an entirely new region and a week later decided to cancel the entire thing and said, hey, by the way, no more regions. The game
That's basically what I said. He put it into better words, though. I guess, yeah, my analogy was really bad, actually, for the Saritsa, because you don't even need to use a character analogy. It's different. Two totally different experiences. It's not like Genshin's not releasing a character. They wouldn't release a whole region. That's wild.
Game's done. This also meant that all the story content that was finally going to come to the game after a 6-month content drought was going to be canceled too. It genuinely could not have been worse for anyone who likes this game. To announce such a big update and cancel it after barely a week, this had never happened, especially for a game of this scale. This post would be viewed over 26 million times and would have over 40,000 replies. Many of the top ones were ratioing it.
I don't think I've ever seen a post of this magnitude with this many views, have this many comments, retweets, and likes, and I guarantee you the quote retweets is more than the amount of likes, or close thereto. I'm surprised it has more comments than both retweets and likes, though. That's insane. I bet it's just hashtag bring back Valco.
They were in utter disbelief that Paper Games would bend to such toxic and loud people in the Chinese community. This game was created to make you, as a woman playing it, feel seen and acknowledged, and yet, with this announcement, they had essentially told all global players, we don't care about you even existing. That's how it felt. Even though they were put between a rock and a hard place, even though they were cornered by what was going on in China, this still felt horrible for just about anyone who ever played this game. You go anywhere, whether it be Twitter, Reddit, any other place this community was present in, and you would see just the disbelief. They genuinely couldn't believe this had just happened. But honestly,
I mean, it is
if you took a step
insane.
back, none of this really made sense. This was really overblown for no reason, and anyone with common sense could see that. A huge chunk of Paper Games revenue came from global players, so how come they were just forced to bend the knee so quickly?
No, I'm sorry. I feel, and listen, Mujin could easily present some information here that makes me feel a little bit more forgiving to the company for this, and I'm totally open to that. But right now, that message, like, this just proves that the CM player base has infolded by the balls. That's metaphorical balls, but in this instance, bro, they don't have the metaphorical balls to be held by, right? Because they succumbed to this. My God. But like I say, there could easily be some more information that gets presented that I'm just not aware of, so let's just see.
Forced to bend the knee so quickly? Well, that's because they had become the worst thing you can ever be in the country of China, becoming an element of chaos.
Surprise!
Okay, so let's get one thing
Element of
straight.
chaos.
There was a timeline to this, and it wasn't always about being an enemy of the state or whatever. This had started out with consumer dissatisfaction about Valco, about the fact that he looks gay and Western and all that stuff. But then Chinese media publications would start twisting it into something way bigger than it actually was. It went from consumer dissatisfaction to women's safety to becoming an enemy of the state with 731 to Paper Games refusing to take responsibility, being arrogant. And eventually, because of how badly Paper Games was portrayed in media, this wouldn't just be about, hey, let's just cancel this character. This would be like, hey, you deserve more punishment as a company. You deserve to go bankrupt. And hence why they had become an element of chaos. So what is that exactly? Well, it's a term I came up with, I guess. But in China, the most important thing that has to be maintained is order. As soon as something goes against that, as soon as something interferes, then they become a problem.
And this is, okay. Listen, I think I'm letting my preconceived notions about Infold and Paper Games kind of get the better of me here, if I can be very honest. It happens on occasion with Infinity Nikki situation with them actually taking advantage of the player base, and it's like, yes, I still think it's a terrible decision to just remove Valcor from the game. Yes, it's to do with the players that put the complaints in, but ultimately the reason they decided to do it is very likely because of the immense amount of pressure that they got from, like, the government and stuff, right? Now, I do have a question, though. I do have a question, because this game clearly has been under scrutiny for this for a decent amount of time now. Hoyo moved their office out of China, no? Is there a reason why they couldn't do the same? I can't take that seriously, I'm sorry. When it comes to this game making this much money, it makes more than Genshin, bro. Maybe not more than Hoyo combined, but more than Genshin. I don't think it is to do with money. That's just one platform, though. I guess you're meaning it's just mobile and it doesn't have another platform. Dude, that's fair, but they make like 60 to 70 mil a fucking month. I feel like they have the money to move. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding this. If somebody with actual knowledge on this situation instead of just guesstimating actually knows, I would so love to go way more in depth on this as to why they wouldn't be able to do it, you know? Because I don't think the revenue is the reason why. CN spends an insane amount. Moving the office ain't gonna change how much they spend, though. I'm just meaning for things like this where the government can't force their hand to change things. If you still want to sell to China, you still need to follow the regulation. But, for example, Hoyo have had these issues as well, right? That they've just... Do you all remember the freaking Wanderer situation and Wanderer drama? It wasn't as bad as this, to be fair, but it wasn't great, and there was a lot of fans over the world that were not happy with it at all, and it kind of just got ignored, and he sold perfectly well, and the game's doing great, bro. Like, oh man, I don't know. It's way bigger than me, this issue is way bigger than me, and I truly don't understand the magnitude that it is at. I'm just trying to think of, like, reasonable actions to take here for the company, because I do feel like if this is a government thing, their hand's been forced, right? I just don't know what they can do. I don't know if there is another thing that they could do, or if their hand is truly just forced into place here.
A great example of this actually happened to Hoyoverse back in 2021. The reason?
Also, yeah.
Hoyoverse had released a music video of Honkai Impact characters dancing in bunny suit outfits. They had not released it in China. Chinese players took grave offense to this and started calling Hoyoverse a traitor, an enemy of the state.
Yep.
Hence why someone tried to assassinate the CEO. Yes, it was over the stupidest thing imaginable. Yes.
It really was.
But that wasn't even Hoyoverse's biggest worry, because people would employ the same strategy used against Paper Games. Mass reporting Hoyoverse to the Chinese Consumer Protection Agency and creating a narrative online that they are an enemy of China.
Yeah.
Eventually, this would prompt them to delete that bunny girl dance music video off every platform imaginable.
If y'all have never seen it, by the way, it is literally just characters dancing in bunny girl outfits. It is the biggest fucking nothing burger you have ever seen in your entire life.
While also releasing an apology. They would give their players some crumbs as a reward, while giving the Chinese players almost 3 times the amount of rewards, apologizing to them for doing this unforgivable thing. I had made a video about this almost 2 years ago, so it really shows that even a company like Hoyoverse is not immune to this. This was after Genshin Impact had come out, by the way.
I think it's the opposite way around. I don't think it makes them less likely to get this. I think it makes them more likely. The more eyes that are on the game and the more Chinese players playing, the more likely they are to be angry at like smaller things, right? I would say.
They were able to get past this without it.
But I think that's the case for everything. The bigger something is, the more likelihood it is to be like scapegoated as a problem.
Any issues was by apologizing, removing the music video everywhere, and having the CEO join the political party of China. This was him pretty much saying, hey guys, I'm not your enemy. I'm not a traitor. Look
at these bunny girls. I feel like I've heard people tell me that DeWei is a member of the CCP before, but I didn't know this was the reason why.
Because when the government gets involved, everything becomes existential. And this is exactly what was
I wonder if he's serious or if he's just LARPing.
happening to paper games. On the 8th of July, 2026, the Ministry of Public Security would publish a statement about what was going on with Levin Deepspace. I mean, this is pretty much the government saying this. They'd say, recently, an online game targeting female players has sparked widespread controversy. The game features a storyline where the male protagonist breaks into a woman's home late at night, accompanied by offensive promotional slogans such as, "What's wrong with letting a wolf into the house?" packaging the illegal act of trespassing as a romantic encounter. This kind of...
Letting, meaning not trespassing. Like she let the wolf into is that not what that means? I'm so confused. Wait, that was talking about letting the MC in? Whoa! What? This was talking about letting the MC in? The MC was wearing a wolf mask. This was literally spread to that level of misinformation. They're literally talking about the MC as the wolf. Oh my god.
Entertainment-driven, traffic-driven creative work disregards public order and morality, crosses legal boundaries, and may ultimately endanger public safety.
Yeah, wasn't that obvious? See, it might be obvious if you actually went through and watched everything like as a fan, but don't forget, this is spread outside of the general fan base of Love and Deepspace now. That includes me. I'm not a general fan of the game. I don't play the game. So I didn't keep up with all of the things, and I also don't understand CN, of course, right? So I don't know that. But no, if I read like what's wrong with letting a wolf into the house, I would imagine that is Valko, the new wolf character, saying that, right? If I don't have other context. So yeah, for sure.
Safety of women living alone is a serious public issue concerning personal rights, social order, and the protection of women's rights, and it is by no means material for arbitrary adaptation or meme creation. Chinese law strictly protects citizens' rights to housing, and no one may illegally intrude. China's criminal law clearly stipulates that those who commit the crime...
It does just show how easy it is to spread out of context stuff, though. In that sense, that's insane.
Illegal intrusion into residence can be sentenced to imprisonment for up to 3 years or detention. If a game packages such behavior as fun interaction, it may be suspected of promoting and glorifying illegal and criminal methods, which is not only a disregard for the authority of the law, but also blatant transgression against the spirit of the rule of law. Even more dangerous is its intangible erosion of public perception. This creative logic that prioritizes traffic can easily mislead the public.
Yeah, but you don't realize that this is exactly what's happening now, right? The public is being misled by this out-of-context entire article.
Especially causing cognitive biases in minors whose minds are not yet mature, weakening their vigilance against dangerous behaviors, and seriously undermining the effectiveness of public safety education.
Okay, partially I agree with that because I'm not being funny, bro. This game should not be available to minors anyway.
I want to point out that this game is not for minors, okay? It's
okay, thank you.
It's mature only, 18 plus. But
oh yeah, in Sienna it is 18 plus though, isn't it? In Sienna it is 18 plus.
Still, this was the narrative and you couldn't do anything about it. They would then continue. Some might argue that games are games and reality is reality.
So even that doesn't make sense.
However, facts have shown that online game content that crosses ethical boundaries can seriously negatively impact the healthy development.
To be fair, a game being 18 plus doesn't mean kids aren't playing it, bro. I was playing GTA at like 13 years old, but at the end of the day, then that's not on the kids, it's on the parents, and also, I guess, the government for not enforcing it.
Facts have shown that online game content that crosses ethical boundaries can seriously negatively impact the healthy development of teenagers. In 2018, 15-year-old Xiao Tang became deeply addicted to a violent video game. Seeking the thrill of killing in the virtual world, he brutally murdered his 23-year-old female.
What did I say, dude? What did I say? That they were going to try LARP and fucking... Not LARP, sorry, but wrong choice of word. Try and equate this situation, again, to video game violence causing real-life murder. Oh my goodness, dude.
This tragic case should serve as a stark warning to everyone.
I literally said the same thing earlier.
You then have an image of Valko. So Valko was acknowledged by a government agency as being a source of a problem. And then they would continue, the virtual space created by online games is never a lawless zone. laws and regulations, such as the regulations on the governance of online information content ecology and the regulations on the protection of minors online, clearly prohibit the production and dissemination of content that may incite minors to imitate unsafe behaviors, induce bad habits, or violate social morality, thus setting a...
But again, the game is set for 18 plus in China, right? And I'm assuming it is way stricter, like chat said, for minors to download 18 plus games in China.
Clear bottom line for the creation of online game content.
Right?
As of now, all relevant characters and storylines in the game have been taken offline for rectification, a move that addresses public concerns. However, taking it offline is not the end. Deeper reflection is needed. This incident serves as another warning to the industry. Any content production that deliberately blurs the lines of illegality, glorifies dangerous behavior, or undermines public safety will ultimately be subject to legal sanctions and public resistance. So,
glorifies dangerous behavior. Blurs the line of illegality. For video games, bro? Are we not glorifying dangerous behavior in almost every gacha game that we play by killing things and killing people, whether they're good or bad? This feels like a rule that they can just enforce whenever they want to.
Here they were acknowledging that Valko got removed, that this was the right step, but that deeper reflection was needed, indicating potentially even further censorship now that the game had a target on its back. They would then end this by saying, to address the chaos in online game content,
To be honest, they could respawn.
comprehensive approach is needed across the entire chain of creation, review, and regulation. Game companies must abandon profit-driven motives and improve their multi-tiered content risk control and review systems to eliminate misleading and harmful content at the source. Regulatory authorities should adhere to strict governance, refine review standards, and resolutely hold accountable companies that
I'm glad it's
overstep
going
their
through the
bounds
whole
and violate
document here.
regulations. Simultaneously, families, schools, and society must work together to strengthen legal and safety education for teenagers and safeguard the healthy growth of minors. The title of this, by the way, was Glorifying Intrusion is Unacceptable Even in Online Games.
Exactly. It's not about that. So Phosphicate in chat just said, to be honest, it depends whether they portray such actions as right or wrong. I don't think it is. I think that's why it's left like purposefully obtuse, because it's not. It's saying glorifying intrusion is unacceptable even in online video games. And in the previous section, it literally said, where is it? Any content production that deliberately blurs the lines of illegality glorifies dangerous behavior. It doesn't say whether right or wrong. Just glorifying dangerous behavior. Bro, dangerous behavior is such a broad term. Running on a wet floor is dangerous behavior. Like, what are we talking about? Like, come on. It just confused me so much. Oh, I don't get it.
Legal and safety education
Eating 12 lots of sweet madame in a row is dangerous behavior, but...
for teenagers and safeguard the healthy growth of minors.
However many you can eat.
The title of this, by the way, was Glorifying Intrusion is Unacceptable Even in Online Games. This was a disaster. Attracting the eyes of a government agency like this and having them write such a staunch article against you was the literal last thing you wanted as a Chinese company. You'd rather have your entire executive board get fired than this.
Jesus.
Now look, the global side was already in disbelief.
It's that bad?
And I'm going to talk about how they did their best to fight against this decision. But seeing that Chinese media was talking about this and seeing that this article from the Ministry of Public Security had been made, many global players would start spreading misinformation.
Oh.
Like this person right here would make a post with over 2 million views in which they would write a fan fiction saying that someone powerful in the Chinese government got angered enough that now all otome in China could be permanently affected. Or how this post with over 1 million views would say that allegedly the dev team is threatening to leave Paper Games if Valko isn't reinstated. These things are not confirmed in any way, shape, or form. But this
Where do they come up with this, though? Wait, what? This confuses me. Take this with a grain of salt. It's not confirmed. Allegedly, the dev team is threatening to leave if they don't release Valko because they spent 2 years working on him. Where's the source? Like, anywhere.
is what happens when the developer of a game is on a different internet than yours, using an entirely different language. But global players, as well as many Chinese...
Why do global have to come in and start doing stupid shit, bro? You've been doing so good. I saw Taran's cosplay as well, bro. Oh my goodness.
players
And then I also saw one of Taran's accounts on Chinese social media got banned, I think, because they got mass reported for cosplaying freaking Valko or something.
weren't simply going to sit idly by watching their favorite game get destroyed right in front of them. And so, a global movement would be born overnight. A movement that is
Bring back
unprecedented in
Valko!
terms of scale that I have never seen before. Barely 24 hours after Paper Games' very unpopular announcement saying
bring
that they were
Valko
going to
back.
remove Valko from the game, a new topic would start trending on Twitter with hundreds of thousands of posts within 24 hours and millions of posts within 1 week. The hashtags Valko is loved and We love Valko would go absolutely viral, and global players would demand that he come back home. As I mentioned earlier, this was overblown, and the audience for Love and Deepspace wasn't stupid. Oh, boo-hoo, he snuck into your home? Well, what about the other love interests? Silas kidnaps you, Raphael and Caleb stalk you, and one of them is your adopted brother that you grew up with as a kid, and then later on, when you both grow up, you're there just scissoring like chimpanzees in HYTE. This just didn't make any sense. And while yes, 731 was a really stupid mistake, it was in the game for 2 months before people...
Why'd they have to just slander my man Xavier in there, bro? Damn, he didn't deserve that. What the hell? Everybody else did some fucked up shit. Xavier's bitch ass can't cook, bro. Leave him alone.
Or just scissoring like chimpanzees in HYTE. This just didn't make any sense. And while yes, 731 was a really stupid mistake, it was in the game for 2 months before people somehow now finally noticed and took offense to it. It was overblown, it felt staged, and it just didn't make any sense. But Paper Games had made their decision. They removed Valco and actually took this seriously. And so, the consequences immediately took place. If they thought that these
1.6 stars is something. 1.6 stars with over 1 million reviews is another.
Toxic Chinese players were their biggest problem, they had no idea what they were dealing with. A huge chunk of silent Chinese players that weren't toxic and crazy would be very disappointed in Valco's cancellation. In fact, you can track revenue that the game makes in China, and while there were many people frustrated over Valco looking Western or gay or whatever, their revenue would only start taking a dip after they had canceled Valco, showing us two things. The first being that they might have underestimated how many Chinese players actually liked Valco, and the second being that maybe Western players also underestimated how many Chinese players were going to boycott this game because of the whole 731 situation. Within just a week, they would lose 50% of how much they would usually make. Within less than 24 hours, they would lose over 100,000 followers on multiple platforms, and eventually they'd lose over 100,000 on TikTok, and would lose so many on Instagram that they would end up privating their profile.
That's crazy. Wow.
They would also get absolutely review bombed on the Apple App Store with a rating that's now below 3 out of 5. And on Google Play, their rating is now 1.3 out of 5.
It's 1.6 for me on Play Store.
One of the most abysmal ratings I've ever seen. Hell, people were so pissed that they brought back a good old tradition that had occurred.
Do you know what a tip that I heard though about this? It's people were saying they were deleting 1-star reviews, so they just started doing 2-star reviews. Why is it 13 plus though? Guys, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Even on mine, it's PEGI 16. I do really wonder where these screenshots are from and whether it's dependent on local laws. Local laws are crazy, dude. They are very different. But I clicked on the PEGI 16 and it literally just says sex. Sex and in-game purchases includes random items.
During the first anniversary of Genshin, which was not only review bomb the game, but also review bomb Google Classroom. If bad reviews start reaching Google Classroom, you know that this controversy is massive. At the same time, you'd have a petition on iPetitions get made that has over 240,000
I'm not even going to comment on the Classroom stuff again.
And you'd also have a Change.org petition with almost 100,000 signatures now, with Change.org's own social media page making a tweet about it, bringing more attention towards it. One Love Deepspace player would take this even further and report the game to the Consumer Protection Agency of their country, Mexico, because this was a false promise in their opinion. This is a product, something was advertised, and then withdrawn, which makes it false advertising. All of Love and Deepspace social media would get flooded with hashtags such as Bring Valco Back. Even their ads on TikTok would get absolutely flooded. Compared to this, what was going on in China was nothing. Everything here was being absolutely invaded. And to show the developer that this was financially a really bad mistake on their end.
I don't think anything could actually happen to them for that, though, to be fair, right? I think it's kind of impossible to sue for that, right? Because I feel like it would be, if it was false advertising to that extent, wouldn't the character need to be out and then removed for that to be the case? Rather than just like, we will release this character and then remove it. Or maybe not. I don't really know how that works, to be fair. Maybe not. No? Really? So if Genshin were like, here's Zhongli, he's going to come out soon, and then they just don't release him? They say like a week later, sorry, not doing that anymore. Could they actually get sued? Thing is, China's not going to sue them, are they? It's not going to pass because the government said fucking delete it. So who's going to sue them? Everything it takes some time to think. Yeah, it's illegal, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but like, who's going to sue them? Or like, at least where's it going to get approved? Because I'm assuming it's all going to go through China's government, whoever sues, right? Even if say the Netherlands sued them for it, wouldn't it have to go through the Chinese official process? And then I feel like, because they're the ones that requested the character to disappear, basically, they're not going to do anything. I don't know. I'm just curious how that works, because I genuinely don't know. So let's see. Maybe he'll go into it.
To show the developer that this was financially a really bad mistake on their end, someone would create a website in which you could enter how much money you spent on the game, and attach a message to it. So far, the amount of cumulative money that was spent in the past by players who chose to support Valko is now over $15 million. I mean, look at all these messages behind that huge number. They were screaming to Paper Games that they were making a mistake here. But while the frustration is understandable and their socials being brigaded was to be expected, what really stood out here was how a big chunk of the global audience decided to protest. While Valko haters were busy sending manure and other things to the HQ of Paper Games, the global audience that wanted Valko in the game decided to instead use their money for good.
Yeah.
Some would fundraise enough money to buy a billboard in Times Square saying bring Valko back, and this billboard crowdfunding strategy would occur all over the world. In New York,
How much did that shit cost? An 8-day campaign for $2.5K? That is way cheaper than I thought it was going to be. What? Okay, listen, $2,500 is a lot of money, but $2,500 for 8 days of a Times Square billboard? Are we dead ass? I thought it'd be so much more. Damn.
saying bring Valko back, and this billboard crowdfunding strategy would occur all over the world. In New York, in the Philippines, in Malaysia, in Thailand, hell, even in Peru. This was them truly showing solidarity between each other, even though they came from such different countries and regions. But I mentioned this audience using their money for good, and that's exactly what they did in Valko's name.
Hell yeah.
They would donate to a woman's shelter in Canada and say that this donation is from Valko. They would donate over $44,000 for the Guangxi flood
oh my
relief
god,
in Valko.
dude. Hey, I'm not saying global's perfect, bro, because they're fucking not, but man, they're showing up for this.
His name as well. This was a place that was hit by severe flooding in China, and these Valko enjoyers were pretty much helping them out. You'd have 11 Deepspace player that normally spent $1,500 every 2 weeks on the game decide to instead use that money to feed over 400 dogs in 3 different shelters, while again doing so in Valko's name. There are so many examples like this, with donations coming from global players for Chinese causes like wildlife conservation, or uniting to save an endangered species, or raising money over $20,000 for wolf conservation because Valko's a half wolf guy, and also donating over 100 chocolate milk bars to 100 kids in Indonesia, all while using Valko's name and appearance, making him out to be a symbol of hope rather than a symbol that threatened women's safety like in China. All of this was done in the hope that on July 9th, when 6.0 would come out, Paper Games would change their minds. They would still decide to release Valko.
I think it's so important to say it's obviously not every Chinese player, bro. Obviously. That much should be obvious, but people will just rip things out of context and stuff. I do feel bad for the Chinese players that actually wanted Valko as well, because there was a lot of them. I've seen them, bro. I've seen them even on Twitter.
Even though they canceled him. And they would take this activism even IRL. Because Levin Deepspace would have a booth in Anime Expo in the US.
Oh, yeah.
There, they'd have different cosplayers meant to represent every love interest. But unfortunately, it seemed like there was one booth meant for Valko that was canceled last minute.
Karen?
So what did they do? Did they bring cow poop or a weapon? No. Instead, they'd go around asking people to pick their favorite lad by placing a star around them, and Valko would receive the most stars. This was, again, meant to showcase the staff that we want Valko back. But while they did make it to Anime Expo, on July 8th, they would start canceling different events that they were meant to attend. Like, for example, an event that was meant to take place in Japan, saying, after carefully reviewing the event content in light of changes to the in-game content, so removing Valko, we have decided to cancel the event. On that same day, they would also announce the cancellation of a massive event scheduled for Billy.
I wonder if they are going to cancel for Gamescom. I'm going to assume they were going to be going to Gamescom.
Billy World, a huge event in China. And so by now, this was attracting all sorts of global media publications, with Jing Daily publishing an article titled, China's top Otome game lost 70 million hearts in 10 days. Hell, even TV news channels were talking about this too. And hell, even Queso would talk about this somehow.
I saw
a chatter would tell him about the drama. Queso would look into it and say, Levin Deepspace is wrong for scrapping its newest character, saying they didn't bring out the character because the fans said he was ugly. That's messed up.
A lot more to it than that, basically.
So look, all of this was meant to raise awareness, but also showcase to the Chinese government agencies that this game was not an element of chaos. It was an element of goodness. These donations in Valko's name were meant to spread positivity and goodness across the world. And to be honest, they did. Objectively speaking, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting fire with fire, the global audience decided to fight fire with good, with water.
Yeah.
It was also done to show Paper Games just how much of a mistake they were making by listening to the toxic side of their fan base instead of the good side. The one that was willing to donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to charities in Valko's name was the one who was really being hurt with this. The hope was that on July 9th, Valko would still somehow show up when they would open the app after updating. But unfortunately for them, that day would end up being the darkest in this community's history. On July 9th, 2026, the 6.0 update would come out for 11 Deepspace. Many players downloaded it hoping to open the app and find Valko waiting for them there.
Okay, listen. There might be some people that thought that also in the chat, and I do want to say this respectfully. What the fuck made you think they were going to do that? Nah, I think they made the decision, right? It's very sad. I get having the hope. I do, but my god, they made their stance very fucking clear by this point. It's very upsetting. Did they have other stuff in the update at least? I guess, well, let me let him speak. We'll see.
Instead, they found nothing. No Valko, no new main story, just the new kitchen feature, and that was just about it. Some people would have issues downloading this update, and so 11 Deepspace would make this post saying, today's update has concluded, while giving some pointers as to how to fix these errors, like reinstalling the game, for example. This would be the last post on their socials up until mid-July. And so everyone would take out their grievances right here. It would get over 17,000 replies. Again, ratioed multiple times with people in complete disbelief. How could you? Instead of listening to the good side of the community, people who are willing to put money where their mouth is and donate to good causes in Valko's name, how could you listen to the toxic people who send you literal cow shit to your offices? The global players felt like someone had put a knife in their back.
And this is exactly what happens when you respond to the people that are just there to take you down, right? I mean, literally, these people were there sending, like you just said, bro, cow shit, literal shit to the office. They're not the type of people you want to be appealing to.
That this update was extremely buggy. I mean, there are certain things in here that my nightmares wouldn't even be able to conjure up. Like, what is this? Like, what the
He's just trying to cosplay Phineas, bro.
fuck is this? Like, how does this even happen?
That's good.
Like, I don't even know, like, what kind of code, how does this even
Spaghetti.
occur? Here's my favorite glitch, personally. What the fuck is that? Anyway, the first thing that players did after not seeing Valko
Coming soon is gone as well. Oh my god.
was go to the love interest character selection screen and see whether the whole coming soon text was still there. And to their extreme disappointment, it wasn't. It seemed like Paper Games was intent on the promise of no more new characters. This was the worst possible news for just about any player.
I can't get over that fucking long hand, bro. That was funny.
The community was devastated. This was a
man.
character they were very excited for, that they couldn't wait to interact with, and he was gone as quickly as he had arrived to their lives. Slowly but surely, any remaining hope players had was being removed right in front of them.
Dude,
Like, for example,
I really wonder what happened to the devs that worked on him. You know, the character designers and the lore creators and stuff. I really do wonder how they feel about it all.
Valko channel and the 11 Deepspace official Discord server would be deleted after the update would go live. And after all this time, things were really starting to set in for many players. So we're just getting a stupid rerun of a banner instead of a new love interest, a new main story update, new cards, new myths, new poses, new interactions. This wasn't just about Valko. This was the biggest update of the year, and all of a sudden, it's not coming anymore. And remember how people were now fearful of further censorship now that the game had attracted multiple government agencies? Well, that's exactly what happened. All
What?
the love interests had a certain theme of an outfit in which they had numerology on them, numbers that signified different meanings. Well, they were all censored, or just straight up removed.
Yeah, bro, listen. They're going to be terrified of numbers in general after what they've been through at this point.
Look at this, for example. It said 95, now it says gibberish. This was no doubt done to avoid any other 731 issues, and that's simply what happens when you become an element of chaos in China. Many global players and even Chinese players warned these extremely toxic and loud fans in China that any censorship, any removal of something in game will result in even more censorship.
They seem to think that their complaints are just going to affect the one thing that they want it to, when in reality, that's obviously not going to be the case, right? They bring up these things from other characters. What was it, Xavier for the 731 stuff? They put Valko's name on it instead, like that news article, thinking that it'll only affect Valko. Of course that's not going to be the case. Holy shit, bro. No, it is going to start affecting your faves, and then you're going to, shock Pikachu face. It's like the freaking Obama giving Obama a medal, bro. Like, well done, look at what you fucking done. No, it's stupid.
Censorship. And that's exactly what was happening. What added more fuel to the fire was that some rumors would start spreading about the role that Valko would have played in the main story, like the fact that he was the one who fixed Caleb's arm, or that he's a friend to Zane. These dynamics between the characters...
Is this just rumors, though? Or is this like in the game files or something?
The story is exactly why people played 11 Deepspace, and there they were
Misinfo?
yeah.
Yeah.
Shit get confiscated from them. And so people started drawing up comparisons to another game made by Paper Games called Infinity Nikki, which I made a video about around a year ago. That game had sudden censorship one day, where its tutorial level, its actual lore was changed for no reason, it was retconned, and even though the community had boycotted the game for months and created a large movement around it, Paper Games didn't budge. That terrible tutorial level is still there today.
Apparently, the old tutorial level is now back, but like in a different part of the game or something, or like in an event, I read. Is that true? I don't know. People were talking about it like it was a new thing. Interesting.
And what was also interesting is that the update that removed the tutorial level came with a lot of bugs. So at this point, it almost seemed like it was a pattern for any game Paper Games had made. And it didn't really inspire optimism. This was really the worst case scenario, but bear in mind, not just for global players, for Chinese players too, even the toxic ones. This Chinese player here would make it very clear in a post they made on Weibo. They'd say that with this outcome, everyone loses. More importantly though, this game was a great outlet to promote overseas players' understanding of Chinese culture as well as Chinese success. Now, many of the players that were affected globally are not just vowing to boycotting Love and Deepspace, they're vowing to boycott any Chinese game. This player would go very hard on these toxic Chinese players, blaming them for halting the success of a Chinese company and therefore a Chinese cultural export, while also lamenting the fact that this game was pretty much ruined as well as its reputation in anything made in China.
Yeah.
This also led many Love and Deepspace players to look forward to a competitor's release called Silent Whispers, another 3D high-quality otome game in which they hope to be treated better. This trailer right here was released 2 months ago, and all the top comments are just people being like, use this fumble from Love and Deepspace to rise, or goodbye Love and Deepspace, hello Silent Whisper, because this game would also be giving them something that they wanted for a long time, a PC client. It seemed like they were actually listening, unlike Paper Games. But it would take a lot at this point to fully crush all hope that the community had for Valkyrie.
I've personally been seeing a lot of people hop to different games, like the Hoyo one, Tears of Themis. And then it's like, I keep seeing the players of like Tears of Themis. Some are being super welcoming, and then some are like, no, we don't want the lads refugees. Like, you should have been like playing from the beginning or something. It's like, bro, oh my god. Oh god, we're gonna get freaking tribalism in the otome genre now, bro. God damn it.
Releasing. One player would point out, hey, listen, when 3.0 came out and Caleb came out, he didn't come out on the first day of the update. He came around in the second half of the update. So in other words, hey, when the second half of this update comes out on July 17th, let's hope that we'll find Valko there waiting for us. What they'd end up finding instead, though, pure and utter disappointment.
Oh.
At this point, Love and Deepspace Chinese revenue was doing horrendously bad, worse than it's ever been. On one day, they'd maybe make $200,000. Now they were making $60,000. Yes, it's still a lot of money, but it's less than half of what they made before. This showed that the Chinese audience, genuinely, the majority, the people who actually spend money, were outraged still at Valko not being included. And these were the consumers that mattered. And at the same time, as people were hoping that Valko would come in the second half of the update, they'd get an in-game notice saying that actually the second half would have a heartfelt gift for Zane, a free 5-star memory in which you interact with him. Now, what's interesting is that the official social media accounts wouldn't make this announcement. As I said, it's been a ghost town since the 9th of July. It would only be announced through an in-game notice, okay? So further making their communication style even worse and going against the promise that they made at the end of June.
It's so tough though, because what do you do then? You just keep posting on CN social media and global and then expecting some backlash whenever you make a decision that you think is going to benefit the game. Genuinely, they can't win. And this is where I start to feel bad. Because yes, they might have made some mistakes in the past, but at this point, they cannot make a good decision now. They can't. Because if they keep posting, then they keep putting themselves under constant scrutiny. And if they only make updates on the app, then they're called bad communicators. Like, they cannot win now. This is where it just starts becoming sad.
And saying we'll communicate more with you guys. What was really interesting though was that there would be this Twitter account with the handle Z with a Zane profile picture that would leak the trailer for this memory, something that was meant to be posted by the official social media accounts. Once enough people found it, the account would delete itself. Many players pointed out that they didn't like the trailer because the face of the protagonist, which is the character that you create, the woman that you create, would be hidden throughout the trailer.
Let me see my daughter. I didn't customize her face for hours for her to be never seen again. Come on, man. Whoa. It's a trailer. I'm confused here. How did that fucking work? What? In-game trailer. Okay, so this is an in-game trailer. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. That makes sense.
The reason why this is a problem is because many Western players like to self-insert themselves into the game, while Chinese players don't like that. It seemed like even with this...
Well, I don't think that's what's happening here, though. I also got confused, though, so I can understand why Mujin's a bit confused by this as well, to be fair.
It would be hidden throughout the trailer. The reason why this is a problem is because many Western players like to self-insert themselves into the game, while Chinese players don't like that. It seemed like even with this trailer, they were still trying to satisfy the most toxic players in China.
Well, why would they censor the character's face? What would that do to like appease the toxic CN fans or something? What would that do, chat? I'm confused. I don't really understand this part. They're jealous of the MC herself that they make. It removes. Is that a confirmed thing though, or is this like made up just because of this? I don't know. Genuinely, I'm trying to understand. CN players don't like the self-insert. And that is a confirmed thing, like a majority of, well, maybe not a majority, I guess it doesn't have to be, but a loud minority maybe of CN players don't like the self-insert stuff, so they cover the face like this. That sucks, man, Jesus. If they see the MC face that is not their customized MC face, they get mad maybe, but the point of this is, in the game, when you see this, it is your customized MC. So they're just hiding it on purpose in the game. That's why I was confused. I agree with you, Polymos, that's what I was thinking, but no, this should be your created face. So sad. Oh my god. Thank you, chat. I always try to understand the situation before commenting on it. I always try. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know everything, especially about lads. I'm not a lads player. I'm literally just trying to get this information out there and also learn about it myself as well. So thank you.
However, even after all this, there was still hope because something positive out of China would come out on July 15th, 2026. Various media outlets would publish positive reports related to Valco, ones that might be deemed as government affiliated. To be specific, there'd be 5. The first one being Reform Network, the second one being Tencent, the third one being Business Daily, the fourth
Whoa! Tencent and NetEase? Wait, where is this going?
one being NetEase, and the fifth one being Phoenix News. However, by July 16th, 4 of the 5 would be deleted, and only one would
Let me guess, the only one that's still up is like Business Daily or Phoenix News.
remain. And that would be the one posted on the website of the National Development and Reform Commission, otherwise known as the NDRC. The 4 others would be paid ads, and it would be mentioned at the end of the articles. I don't know whether it's players wanting Valco back that paid for it. I don't know whether it's Paper Games that did that, but it caused a lot of confusion. The reason why this article was a big deal was because it was somewhat state affiliated, and it talked about the efforts being made to bring Valco back globally.
I don't think players would have enough money to pay Tencent and NetEase to make an ad like that. Can I just keep it a butt? Surely that costs a fucking fortune, no? Like that, surely that costs an insane amount of money.
In a positive manner. It would say, with overseas players continuing to voice their opinions, how can Chinese games translate global feedback into increased content? As of July 15th, the main petition...
Then again, hey, to be fair, I thought a billboard in frickin' Times Square would cost more than $2.5K for 8 days.
The overseas petition platforms iPetitions demanding the reinstatement of the romanceable new character Valco in the game Love in Deepspace had garnered over 240,000 signatures and 80,000 comments. Meanwhile, on Change.org's game petition page, 3 main petitions related to Valco received 96,000, 21,000, and 5,900 signatures respectively.
Jesus.
This 2-week-long cross-platform participation indicates that overseas users' demands have not subsided quickly despite the character's removal. Following the cancellation, overseas players' actions gradually expanded from petitions to fan art, charitable donations, and offline events. Unlike the initial comments and emotional expressions that emerged during the early stages of the game's controversy, the actions of overseas players have now continued beyond the originally scheduled launch date. In the comments section of the main petition page on iPetition...
You underestimate Chinese baddies? No, deadass, I don't, because I know how much money people spend on this game. I don't. I genuinely just thought, like, pay specifically Tencent and NetEase, bro, some of the biggest companies in the world for this kind of stuff. I deadass thought, like, paying for an advertisement about Valco specifically, which is going against the CN government, basically, would be... I'm talking literally, like, in the multiple 6 figures. Genuinely, I thought they would like charge a fuck ton for that, because that just sounds insane to me that they'd even do it.
Some users stated that they were inspired by Valco to download, return to, or continue following the game, while others suggested compromises
that's
such
like bad
as
rep
delays
for them,
or
right?
modifications before release. This article will then take this further, giving us numbers, saying that 60% of the revenue from the game comes from China, but that the rest comes from global players, highlighting just how important their opinions are. This was significant because up until now, everyone's data points were all over the place. This is a privately held company and they typically don't really reveal the demographic portions, but seeing that this is a government-affiliated publication, these numbers hold more weight. And what really made Valco enjoyers optimistic while reading this article would be one of the final paragraphs, where it would say, Whether Valco will be reinstated should be determined by Paper Games based on content quality, market data, and long-term planning. However, the continued growth of overseas petitions has provided a significant signal. When a character can generate signatures, creative works, charitable activities, and offline actions in multiple countries and regions, re-examining and product validation of them is not merely a response to public opinion, but may also be a repricing of global user needs and existing content investment.
Yeah.
For a leading product like Love and Deepspace that already has a global user base, turning this feedback into richer content offerings and more refined overseas operational capabilities is perhaps more valuable than letting related demands remain outside the game in the long run. So for many Western players, this was as if the Chinese government was telling Paper Games, hey, whether you want to keep shooting yourself in the foot or not, that's just up to you, we don't really care. But you should probably reinstate him. So as I said, for many, this article was a celebration, like, oh my god, our efforts are actually doing something. And
listen to this. Dude.
Long run. So for many Western players, this was as if the Chinese government was telling Paper Games, hey, whether you want to keep shooting yourself in the foot or not, that's just up to you, we don't really care. But you should probably reinstate him.
If that is how it is, though, then what the fuck are they doing in the first place? Respectfully here, right? And I do mean this with the utmost respect, because I don't fully understand the way that, like, the Chinese government works. And it confuses me a lot. I can't think of a good reason why they would go through everything to basically get Valco removed because of all the backlash from players, to then put this out and be like, maybe you should put him back now, you know? After seeing this company fuck up Infinity Nikki, I don't have any respect for that. I mean, that's fair, but this is also on this side. I'm confused by it. Since the gov is involved, there's likely a 30-day GA order, so Info can't say anything until now. But this is from the gov, right? It's complicated. It's very complicated. True. It is. Why is everyone in this situation so wishy-washy? I don't even think it's wishy-washy. It's just fucking confusing. They panicked? Maybe. Info still can't speak if they're under the gag order. That's fair. That's fair. I didn't even know that was a thing, bro. This is what I'm saying. I'm so out of the loop with how all this stuff works, man.
So as I said, for many, this article was a celebration, like, oh my god, our efforts are actually doing something. And they kind of are. This article acknowledged all the good things they were doing. Like, these news were reaching China, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
At the same time, it also see Chinese government agencies reminding people that malicious reviews, harming the reputation of businesses, online harassment, use of bots, paid accounts, AI-generated posts are against the law. So again, to many, this felt like they were directing this towards people who engaged in this behavior against Love and Deepspace, and that they were about to get in trouble with the law. This again signaled to people that, hey, maybe things are finally calming down. Some Chinese players would even use a VPN to get on Twitter to thank overseas players for the positive engagement they were bringing to the game and to
It just all goes to show that it is a very loud minority. It is.
Valco. Like this post saying, overseas sisters, without you all, none of this would be possible. Honestly, it was very wholesome.
Aww.
It was wonderful how a community so large could work together regardless of borders or distance or culture. But of course, in parallel, the toxic Chinese players had a movement of their own.
Of course
and
they
there was
did.
coordinated effort on Chinese social media to counter any positive news coming out from Valco fans. But we just read a government-affiliated publication just highlight these positive things, so I don't know if it's working that well. When it came to Love and Deepspace, though, as I said, they had a total media blackout. The only thing they had said ever since the July 9th update post would be a Facebook reply about winners of some giveaway or something, or competition. Here, they'd indicate that they were going to post again on July 29th talking about the winners, while of course getting like 36 angry reactions. Does this mean that their media blackout will last until the 29th?
I like to think that this is fucking like 70-year-old Valco haters that play Love and Deepspace, because who the fuck's going as far as reacting on Facebook, bro?
And then they'll post again regularly, maybe updating the community? Who knows? But so far, as I said, total media blackout. Even with a new free memory coming out in-game, still nothing, and no trailer as well, of course.
Oh,
so look,
man.
overall, the ball was now in the court of Paper Games.
I'll be honest, my opinion on this whole thing has changed quite a lot from this video, and I'm glad I waited for Mujin to cover it like this, and I'm glad I decided to watch it on stream so that y'all could give me some slightly missed context here and there. I'll give you my honest thoughts of it in just a minute, though.
Are they actually going to bring back Valco? Or are they going to listen to this disgusting, toxic side of their community and throw their global community that's willing to donate to charities in Valco's name under the bus? It remains to be seen. But honestly, seeing that they had made the terrible decision of removing Infinity Nikki's amazing tutorial and backstory, and refused to change it even after
that was only one of the big issues with that game, by the way. There was plenty of others.
Massive backlash and a big boycott. I just don't know if this developer is capable of listening to the community on such major issues. This also might truly be out of their hands. This might be out of their control completely, but we don't have proof. We can only assume on what's going on behind the scenes, and I prefer not
I think they were forced into between a rock and a hard place, if I'm honest.
to assume. And I do hope that Valco is brought back to this game. If you had to ask me though, I'm not very optimistic, but hey, seeing that this community has been very optimistic and donating to so many amazing causes, you know what? I'll change my mind and be optimistic too. Let's hope for the best, because if that
I actually am kind of optimistic after this.
happens, it'll be a wonderful story that will be never forgotten on the internet. And with that, I want to thank my wonderful community for making this very comprehensive Google Doc about the entire incident involving Valco, with sections like speculations, a glossary for people who have no idea about the game and the different terms used, memes, Twitter links. I'd even asked them to do this. They just did it by themselves because they're so passionate about this game and the community. So thank you to I, Dea, Doc, Jin, Helianthus, Laurel Doll, Mimi, Ray, Red Rose, Sen, Starfall, Watt, and Woof. You guys are the best. And if you want to propose topics for me to talk about in my videos, or just talk about different topics with like-minded individuals, then definitely join my Discord server. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I really appreciate it, especially this video because it was such a pain in the ass to make.
Yeah, it was.
This video was posted one day
I messaged him about it a couple of times and he was like, yeah, bro, this shit is killing me.
early on my stack. I don't typically do this, but this needed to be definitely double checked by some people in my community. But if you want to see exclusive content from me there, definitely check it out. Prices start at $1. And if you want 10% off your Gamer Subs order, then definitely use the code BUJIN.
Absolutely.
See you in the next video whenever that
or type exclamation mark Gamer Subs.
And I love you so much platonically. All right, I'm not a Love and Deepspace character, okay? Mwah.
VIP 1 in China costs $600. For global players, it costs $6,000. I've heard enough. Eviscerate Falco. Dude, fucking fire video, bro. That was honestly very well researched. There was a couple of missed points, of course, and a bit of context missing at certain parts, but he got it proof watched by actual lads players. That was a great video, genuinely. Honestly, my opinion of this whole thing has changed quite a few times throughout this video, and at the end of it, I do want to say, listen, the very small minority of players that decided to just go fucking crazy and for some reason force this character to be removed is insane to me. I think the heinous acts of going to the office and doing horrible things is ridiculous. I think those are the people that are in the wrong. For Paper Games themselves, do I think it was a bad idea to remove Valco? Yes, because it condones the actions of the Chinese fans. And some global. I'm not going to say it's only the Chinese fans, it's just that's what was highlighted. However, I do feel like they were kind of forced between a rock and a hard place because they got the government involved. Like, Paper Games put out that statement that was saying they were still going to release Valco, and then the fans in China started reporting them to the fucking government, bro, and that's when everything kind of went to shit. So, genuinely, in this situation, I'm a little bit more understanding, because it really does, and again, I don't know how this works entirely, but if it is just that the government basically forced their hand to stop the character, yeah. I feel like Paper Games' hands were kind of forced in this specific situation. If it went like that because the CN government got involved, again, I could be missing a little bit of context still. I still feel bad for the players. I hope they bring Valco back. That's my main thing. Like, genuinely. Really, really do. Quick update. A bunch of people started checking the accounts of Valco antis, and people who were pushing the hate are people who post slime videos in their school homework. A lot of them are between 11 and 15 years old. So they shouldn't have even been playing the game, because in CN it's an 18+ game. Keep playing with your slime, children. Please help us bring him back. Bro, I will do what I can. What can I actually do to help? Because genuinely, as far as Mujin just covered, like I can signal post this video, you know, like get it in front of more people, share the petition, that kind of stuff. I'll do that happily. Play lads. That's the wrong thing. I said if they bring Valco back, I'll play the game. If I play it now, it's sending the opposite message. I say play 2007 Call of Duty Trilogy instead of lads. You could just go through the trailers. A lot of people think it's a good game when it's a companionship game. I feel like anything I do to kind of bring good attention to lads right now, though, is not in the best interest of the players that are boycotting. Or am I wrong about that? If I make a video of me reacting to the lads trailers and I'm like, damn, this actually looks kind of fire, and I post it and it gets like good attention, I feel like that's still giving them like quote unquote good publicity as a company rather than waiting until they actually make the good change that people are wanting. Kind of feels like ignoring the issue. Kind of, yeah. I think the best thing I could do is, like you say, just post this stuff and see how they go in the future. Because hopefully at some point, bro, they're just gonna they're just gonna reinstate him. But I don't know. If anybody on YouTube has any recommendations on what people can do to help, please do leave it in the comments. I'll probably pin some of the comments that are giving good suggestions and stuff. Donating to the balls because it's cute is one thing for sure, which is very nice, and I would be happy to do so. If it's in the name of Valco, of course. But I also want to do something for the players for the game to like support them, you know? I hope Valco comes back, bro. I think y'all have been done dirty enough. And again, I'm happy to say where I was wrong. I think I put too much of the blame here on the actual company rather than on the players that caused this and the government side of things, to be honest. I really do feel like the company's hands were kind of forced, at least to the extent that I originally thought. They still made pretty shit decisions because of it, but it's very unclear to how much their hands were forced by the government. It really is. Support lads players. Hashtag bring Valco back.